course. I hope the entourage knows.
From the top?
Yeah, from the top, please.
Go on, Lulu. Easy does it, everybody knows. Comfortable with what you got, thinking out the thoughts you just don't know. Silence, golden, is it just unspoken? Sense and feeling, oh so true. I don't heed the signs, that's nothing new. Your cosmic opportunity. If you don't take a chance, come with me. Look up, what's around you. Get out of dodge. Look up, what's around you. Get out of dodge. No time to lose, no time to waste. Get out of dodge. Look up, what's around you. Get out of dodge. Rearview mirror, scared of what's behind you. Saving money for a rainy day. What you haven't got, you can't give away. Token gestures won't sit around for extras. Getting wiggle room, take a mile, getting paid to fill you my fake smile. Your cosmic opportunity. If you don't take a chance, come with me. Let's go, walk around you. Get out of dodge. Look up, walk around you. Get out of dodge. No time to lose, no time to waste. Get out of dodge. Look up, walk around you. Get out of dodge. Your cosmic opportunity. If you don't take a chance, come with me. Look up and what's around you. Get out of dodge. Look up and what's around you. Get out of dodge. No time to lose, no time to waste. Get out of dodge. Look up and what's around you. Get out of dodge.
Fucking awesome. Well, I'm running out of ink for autographs.
All right. Can everyone hear me? If they can, then I ain't going to ever know. So I shall crack on. Good evening, everybody.
We can hear you, but I don't know why that's playing now. There we go. It's been air after air tonight.
Am I echoing?
And now it's playing it over here. See? Now you're good.
Am I echoing your end?
No, it's been air after air on the computer tonight.
Well, don't worry about
starting
that.
on their own.
Well, let me just greet everybody first and say hello to everybody who either is watching or listening live now or might see this at a later date. Greetings to you all. And of course,
yes, hello,
very
everybody.
warm, heartfelt greetings to Stacy B this evening. I shall sort of play the host once or twice this evening.
Always.
So, yeah, how are you doing, Stacy?
I'm doing wonderful. Are you doing good?
I'm fine. It's my first day into my 48th year of life. Yes.
Do you feel older and wiser?
Yeah, I'm not too sure how I feel actually. Yeah, I'll revisit that question at another another time.
Another time.
Yeah, another time.
Hi, Haley and Coach Still.
Mm.
And this bulldog's still in here. Hi, bulldog. But yes,
So
I'm gonna say hi back to them and Tracy and Ronan.
okay.
All right.
Right. So just briefly, just so that people know what they were looking at and listening to, the music was by a band called Powdered Marble, and basically it's just a rehearsal kind of recording. It's someone's phone in the corner while they're basically jamming in the studio.
Right.
And it's a pretty cool. There's some pretty cool lyrics in there, and one of them is oh God, blimey! You'll
No, you
curse
can't
missed
remember it.
opportunities. Yeah, you'll curse missed opportunities if you don't take a chance and come with me. Take a look at what's around you, and that's like, I think that could be the moral of today's show, but that would have been a very long title. Yeah, and
Well, I think the title's already long as it is. You're gonna add that in there too.
Yeah, the photo as well. The whole thing started with the little video that Howard George Stirrup did when we were in Gibraltar and the Euro tour, and he went into a shop and just basically made that sort of 10-second little snippet, which was brilliant. Yeah, and then the other photos are kind of in and around Gibraltar, Spain, that sort of thing, and you would have seen Alex, conspiracy music guru, on there as well, amongst other people. Mike Wilkerson was on there, and Trinity 4, and myself as well, of course, and a few others. And it was nice to watch those images back. Yeah, but
yeah, images that I haven't seen until you sent them to me. And those are pretty cool. Even the buildings are themselves is a total, new show we could do discussing that and what they look like and your opinions on that. Because I know I have different opinions on the structures. How do you feel when you're seeing it in real life?
How do you mean?
Did it feel unreal to you? Did it feel like it was normal you seeing that architecture like that, or?
Well, when I stood in front of that cathedral in Barcelona that one day when I took those few photographs, and you're looking up at this structure, I still can't fathom how you can build that. I was looking at it. It's really, really, but it's the most bizarre structure I've seen that close up. An amazing, amazing building. Now we know the official line of who's apparently, who the architecture is and blah blah blah, but who the architect is and all the rest of it. But they were. I was saying this earlier this afternoon when we were talking, Stacy, about how I was watching them moving metal elements in and out of that cathedral. I'm thinking, well, what's going on there? I know people have their theories on what really is going on in church spires and stuff.
I was seeing in the picture one of those that looked like they were something hanging. And it almost looked like it was something like a UFO or something weird or some light. And I was asking you about it, but actually you can almost see the wires where they were either building or they were doing something in the process still. That's weird. It's very, very different.
Yeah,
those pictures itself we need to put up somewhere.
It's awe-inspiring. When I see the photos of that cathedral, it gives me a really strange feeling when I look at them. And I've seen bigger buildings. It's not the size that awe-inspires me. It's just the sheer shape of it. The structure itself is just so fascinating. Yeah, I'd like to look more into that. I've got to say that is right. And the funny thing was that when we built up our stand to do our bit of activism, we were literally like 20 yards across the road from the cathedral. No police moved us on.
I know, it was beautiful. I didn't see those angles. You couldn't tell when you guys were doing it on live stream how amazing that the sights that you were seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these are the things that we were taking in along the way. This is why I was always so eager to kind of talk about this stuff, because it's it's hard to explain. But when you actually stand there in front of it, it kind of, a picture, they say a picture tells 1,000 words and all that sort of stuff, but you just have to notice it. But yeah,
we'll go over those pictures later.
Do it. Sorry?
Yes, I said we'll go over those pictures here in a minute too more, so they can actually discuss them and see them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, we can even do it now if you want to.
Well, we
It's
could
up to
actually
you, or
quickly.
if you want to discuss that first.
Well, we could actually quickly address why we called
Mhm.
this show the
Okay.
Birthday Humbug Revisited. Because as you may or may not know, we streamed our first show yesterday, round about this time. I think. Oh, no, were we late? I probably was late.
We were a little late.
Yeah, I normally am. And it was a fascinating experience. What was your take on it, Stacy?
Well, I thought it was great. I really did. It was the first time everything went a little smooth. I would say a little smooth because there was a couple hiccups. Just like tonight, the computer wanted to do what it wanted to do, even though I lined it up beautifully beforehand. It does what it wants. So there was a couple of hiccups tonight too, but those things can always be addressed and fixed. And so we would do that along the way. But I thought it went great. I think we didn't get to focus more on your birthday. I'm kidding. We focused a lot on that all night. You
Yeah.
couldn't take the compliments because you're turning what, 50? Is that what it is now?
Yeah, 27.
The ages were everywhere all night.
Yeah.
How did you feel on it though? Was there something you felt like you wanted to address that you didn't get to
I've
address or anything like
I've
that?
never listen. I'm new to all of this. And by the way, while I get the opportunity, one of my inspirations is actually Bob, who's in here this evening from Globebusters.
Hi,
So
Bob.
good evening to you, Squire. He's one of the reasons why I thought it was always a good idea to try and use a voice if you've got one. But yesterday, when it came down to the nooks and crannies of it all, I was a little bit nervous. It was, for me, I'd never done that sort of thing before. Apart from on the tour, we did, we did the live streams when we were doing the activism, and we did the update shows in the evening from the bus. But that's a different thing because you're all sat together, you've all been in it together the whole day, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? You've got that sort of, you got that almost a sense of, I won't say invincibility, but I'll say
You have
a sense
other people that have your back right there. It is
you
so
got
comfortable.
you got that feeling of security and camaraderie, and I think camaraderie is what it's all about, because that really does get you through moments, and so that was my first experience yesterday of doing this sort of thing. So I take my hat off to anybody who does this sort of stuff. It's hard work. It's and if you do it properly, or I won't say do it. When I say do it properly, I don't mean do it perfectly, because I'm not perfect. But if you put your heart and soul into it,
I don't know. The way Sven acts, not perfect.
no, far from it. And but if your intentions are good,
perfect.
But if your intentions are good and you're in it for the right reasons, then good things will happen, and they will.
It always will. Yeah,
of course they will. I think
that's
that's
truth prevails in the end, right?
Right. So just to answer your question, I enjoyed yesterday. It got a little bit in the second half of the show, let's say, fruity.
Lost for words for once. Yeah, fruity. Fruity could be a word we could use for that, I guess. Yeah.
But let's call them teething problems.
Yeah.
And we move on, But the experience itself was cool in the gang. I enjoyed it. It was great, and I hope we can do this more often. And I think it's good the way we're doing it as well, that we're not going to have a set date every week. We're just going to spontaneously throw out a promo a couple of hours beforehand, and then just do a show,
and go from there.
Talk about what we'd love to talk about during the course of the day, and we don't get a chance to, because who the hell do we talk to about it? We
go talk to each other, and that's what the community does do. But which we can lead back, right into something that we could get off our chest is on Mark's show for a second about Mark Sargent being on more of the higher media, which is what BBC was. No, it wasn't on that. What was the channel? I want to get it correct because I'm not from UK.
Yeah,
ITV. And it said that a comment was made that there was fighting within the community, which made it seem like, for me, there's fighting between us, and we can't even get our own stuff together. Then we don't even know what we're talking about. And where do you think that stems from? And what do you think about it? How it affects people's mindsets that hear that in the regular world?
I think people underestimate how easily accessible our community is. It's not a closed shop, and it doesn't need to be infiltrated, right? And so people have to understand that, you know, you can nip in and out of chat rooms and hang around in people's shows and get the general gist of what's going on. In the space of a week or two, you can kind of suss it. So you don't really have to have anybody on the inside, as I would put it, to figure out stuff. So it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that kind of sentiment filters through to the mainstream media, because you know, let's also not forget that there are people who hold down so-called top jobs who have an eye on this sort of thing because their leniencies are towards this. And yeah,
so they're passionate, they release, and they feel the need or calling to do this, whether they can get out there and physically do it or not. They may be doing too much with their work or job in their real life, because that matters deeply.
Yeah, but I mean,
not everybody can get that out.
No, absolutely. And but the fact that the information not information went out really, but the fact that the vibe got through.
They've been talking about it, right?
Yeah, that they were talking about it. Did that surprise me? Well, it's not a lie, is it?
No, it's not.
Right.
I mean, I see it every day. We have channels putting out stuff about it. You know, I see the vibe. Absolutely.
You know, I mean, we've had our issues, which is why I left the Global Eye Lounge Discord, and which I vehemently disassociate myself from, because that was what was happening. The lunatics were taking over the asylum, quite literally. It was getting ridiculous, and I wasn't going to partake in any of that rubbish. That wasn't going to happen. You know, I'd rather be. No, not at all. I'm not here to argue. I ain't here to prove a point to anybody. I'm just here to learn more and surround myself with good people. And there are good people out there. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely. I mean, you met quite a few on tour too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And spread that message, whatever message it is, but it's got to be coming from a compassionate angle. And as long as it does, and everything's good. But yeah, meeting people, you know, we're going to have people coming from that we met in Copenhagen, coming over to Bournemouth for the 11th of April for the Bournemouth leg of the UK Southwest Uni Tour. So that's going to be pretty cool. Dave Marsh already told me tonight that he's coming. So that's fantastic. You know, we just messaged about half an hour ago. Yeah, that's good stuff. So he is going to be there. Hopefully we'll get a few others on board, and then we should have a nice team.
Nice gathering.
Oh yeah, and it will be good. And then there's a nice pub just up the hill, and it's called the Moon. So we'll probably retreat to there afterwards and have 1 or 2 glasses of non-sparkling water, of course.
Of course. That levels. Always.
Yeah, level water, of course. I ain't going to be touching. If my water's curving in the glass, I will hand it straight back.
And what are you going to say?
I'm just going to say I wanted a straight water, mate.
I want a straight water, mate.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in that reality, because in this reality, it's always flat. So whatever reality you end up in, Mandela effect or not, if you get curved water, I think you're in another one.
One thing you will guarantee to get flat in England will be your beer, because your beer is always flat in many ways. Yeah, it's horrible. I'm not a beer drinker.
I'm not down with that. I'm not a beer drinker, but I don't want to drink anything flat. What's the point? Carbonated needs to be flat in it.
I lived in Germany for many, many years, and as yourself, we both have German ancestry. And when they really celebrate the art of beer drinking, you know, it's like with a nice head on it and all that sort of stuff. And so then you come back to England, and here it's like it gets sort of splattered into your glass, and then that's it, and it's like, oh no, it's really bad.
I don't know if you want to address that. It says, Sven, someone
I'd
took
like
away
to.
my moderator status in Globe Light Lounge. I have no idea why. This comes from Bob.
Yeah. Okay, Bob. Well, I was kicked off my own server. About when was it, Stacy? It was around about 28th of December, I think it was, something like that, right?
It was exactly the 28th of December that it happened. I remember it very clearly.
Yeah, and without me dropping any names and stuff, because I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of it. You know, I believe in karma, and all good things come to those who wait. But what I can say is that was out of my hands. I had already been booted off there myself, so I have no idea why someone took away your moderator status. I certainly would never have done that ever.
Ever.
So I have no.
Well, anybody that would take a moderator status off of someone who is very known in the community, who's looked up to in the community, respected in the community,
right?
And you would even have that conversation, is quite disgusting to me. And I'm just
it is disgusting.
And there's a lot of that happening in the community, and it's sad. It is.
Yeah, it's I'm sat here now biting my teeth, very, very tempted to throw names out there, but I ain't gonna. But the way things were handled, just in general, just because they didn't like the way I was outspoken, I was too energetic for them or whatever. I was neglecting the channel and everything else, and I was like, guys, I'm on tour. I'm out and about doing other stuff. It was bizarre.
Well, I mean, you just got on tour around December 8th, around that or something, and then your service taken the 28th, so you're only home 20 days.
Yeah,
I mean, you had to adjust to being off tour. I mean, people were giving up their lives, leaving work, and living in a van. And I don't think people understand what that takes. It's like living homeless and then not having gas and being cold to do something for not just the community, but because they feel the need to tell the truth and to still be treated. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing about
that time to adjust, come home, relax, get back to reality is my point.
Right, but and this is the thing, and truth has to be spoken. If people are going to go on about talking truth, then let's talk truth. Let's not beat about the bush. Let's have it out. Let's talk truth, then, brother. Right, and but there are people out there that don't. This is the problem here. They'll take pop shots, they'll snipe, and they'll run for cover, and you can't get them. You can't hold them to account and actually question what the hell's going on, right? And that's why that thing that I saw from Bob just then, it infuriates me, because people still thought I was associated with that place as well. This is the thing. Well, that's why I was like straight away, no, I have nothing to do with it. I told Robin Campbell, he knows as well. I said, no, I'm out of there. It's toxic. It's not good. It reminds me of a very good song from the 70s called "The Lunatics Have Taken Over the Asylum." I'd like to use that on our next show.
We might do that, and we probably get a copyright like before,
we'll
but that's okay. Sometimes
you
just have to take it. Taking it for the team. Yeah.
Take it for the team, the greater good and all that. Yeah. So now when we are on Discord, we now go on the Serious Truth Discord, which is Stacy's. What we do there is we basically, it's ours, but it's yours really, but it's ours. Yeah, I guess. We want it's quality, not quantity. We want to get people there, bang our heads together, try and create some sort of meetups, or try and create some sort of events, or and we've already succeeded in doing that on one or two occasions. Now we've already got a few people together through that Discord channel. So
yes, we have, and we're still doing it now. And the communication that goes on our Discord is not going to be the same communication you get on every other Discord. If you guys want to go in there and communicate live, there's a little chat for that, of course, but you're not going to see us in there with 12 people, 27, 37, whatever the number is, because it's more about when we go in there to talk, it's what can we do to further this? Or it's also talking about all the lies. And sometimes we just, it's been a while, so we get together and communicate. But it's not one of these back and forth battles, I want to argue every day kind of thing, because I'm not into that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about the arguments, is it? And it shouldn't be. And that's why I bring it back to what we were kind of alluding to earlier about getting the message out. You know,
Yes.
I know it's not everyone's cup of tea to go out there and talk to people and engage with people and stuff like that. I get that. But there are still ways of getting a message out. You know, everybody can do it in their own way. You know, whether it's playing music, whether it's mentioning something at the hairdresser, whether it's dropping, you know, a few leaflets off in the supermarket, whatever. There are lots of ways.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or get yourself a stamp and stamp flat earth on your banknotes. Whatever you want to do. I don't know. You know, there are lots of ways. Many ways to skin a cat, don't you know, young Stacy?
It's always that phrase for you, and me and animals, you know better. Let's not go into the skin the cat. Does it always have to be that?
I know. It's the British vulgarity.
Animal lovers watching people.
I know.
See, now we just lost 2 people because you just said you want to skin a cat. He does not mean literally. Let's bring it back. Let's get activism, protest against that now.
It's an old saying. I was only quoting an old saying. Yeah. So there we go. Interesting stuff. Yeah. But the Serious Truth Discord is not going to be pushed as much as how I originally wanted it to be for the Global Eye Lounge. It's going to be more of a flexible unit. Let's call it that. You know, that would be much nicer, easier.
Yeah, but I'm a little bit. It's just unfortunate because you had big plans from what I heard, and I felt like it was happening. It was needed. You guys are going out on tour, and when people go on tour and you're speaking to people and you actually reach them, what do you do after that? These people need somebody to talk to. They don't have anybody in their lives that can explain to them anything else besides talk to 3 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, but that's it. So what do they do after that? And that was the whole point, is they had a Discord to go to, come in, talk to us, whether they still believe completely or not. People are going to take them in for their opinions no matter what. And it was supposed to be more of a family-oriented kind of thing, so that way everybody could be there. So it's unfortunate that it happened that way, because now we're not pushing that for the tours and stuff out there where people can go for that. And it should have been one place where we all could, hang out and do that and help these people.
Well, the original thought from me was, and I remember because I contacted Jason and Roxanne over it. I spoke to them about it. This was before I joined the tour. This was just after I'd met everybody or met up with everyone on the Kidderminster Convention in the UK. And I remember saying to Jason, we need to do. We need to do something where people have got somewhere to go to have a talk. You know what it's like. I've done it for months. You go into, you go and watch the shows. You watch Globebusters when it comes on, and you watch whatever shows are on and whatever. But then there comes a time also when you want to actually have a chat about it and talk about it and converse with people about it and share thoughts and essentially learn. And the best way to do that is to interact with people who are on the same wavelength and all that.
Right.
I
remember when I first woke up, I was constantly wanting to research every day, talk to people about it, but there wasn't anybody to talk to about it. So to have somebody at that time would have been amazing for me. I literally just, I had to go to my own room again, do my research, and act like it was never happening. And then when you did communicate it out, most of the people back then, when I was researching it, looked at you like you're crazy. Most of us still do, of course, but that's the whole point, that we need to get out there and let people know that no, we're not just online talking truth. I want to show you face to face. I'm not crazy. I'm not on, any drugs here. I'm seriously face to face talking to you as a normal human being and trying to talk to you about my truth, because I know somewhere in you, my truth is going to resonate with you, because I've been through so much stuff in my life. You've had to go through some of it too. And if you can reach them on that level, then you got a door in. You have at least that foot in, at least. I don't know if I'm all the way in, but at least that foot. And then what do you do after that? That person's looking at you like, okay, what, you exchange phone numbers? Yeah, you could do that. But to have, what if I was busy? You know what I mean? I can't communicate with everybody, give my phone number out all day long and people just texting and calling me. There was a group, a community that could have stepped in when I wasn't available. Bob could have said something. Anybody could be in there. coastal truth and help somebody out with the information that they needed. And that's what's important, because you can't just find it sometimes and look for it online. A lot of people, like my mom, go, well, they don't even really understand how to Google still. Won't look for a YouTube video. I have to show her a YouTube video. You know what I'm saying? So you have to put it in their face. And that's what another thing that was happening, because they're going over there and we're literally showing them, hey, go to this link, go to this page. And they don't have to be subbed to these people. And that was important too. There, we were also linking other channels together and getting these channels out there as well, not just, you know what I mean, through our word on word. Yeah.
Well, we were putting the link for the Discord in all the chat rooms that we were in. I mean, I was putting it everywhere. You know, it didn't matter wherever, you know, and yeah, but you know, you live and you learn. Like I say, I'll be careful on the old name dropping. The time will come for that. And those who know, those who don't know, well, they don't know. Isn't it? But
it's like, I'm sorry. That's the answer.
Yeah. But yeah, but it made me also realize there is life outside of Discord channels and stuff like that in general. And you know, the real focus needs to be on spreading the word. Sounds so simplistic and very sort of Hollywood, you know, go out and spread the word. You know, what word? What, you know, toast is cool. I like red. What word? Well, you know, what are we spreading here? So, you know, but at least having the feeling of that's where it should be going. It's really the point I'm making.
So if you had a message then that you want to spread, what is your message beyond, you know, getting the word out? What is your message, you know, that you want to definitely people to hear before they leave? And that, like, say they had 3 minutes, you know, what would you want to tell them basically? But like the main things you want to get out of it before they walk away from you, you know?
You mean when you're talking to someone on the street? Well, yeah. I suppose.
How do you feel like your main things you want to get out of it?
Well, first of all, you don't know how long you've got with that person, so you've always got to presume they're going to go in 10 seconds, never mind 3 minutes. Right, because they stand there often, and they look like they've got an exit strategy. You know what I mean? I'll give you an example. When we were in Copenhagen, I remember speaking to Brian after our activism, and I was saying to Brian, why aren't these people taking leaflets? And he said, well, if they do take leaflets, it means they want to engage in a conversation. So by not taking a leaflet means they're not interested, even though they might be interested. I think it was Brian who said that to me. I think it was, or it may have been Anders in Sweden. I can't remember now. But yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't want to have a conversation. They're not social anymore. Nobody does that.
But it depended on what country you were in. But it was funny because, you know, I spoke with Germans in Portugal, and we spoke with Spaniards in France and Italians in Luxembourg and stuff like that. So it was very, you know, across the board, you know. The most difficult place we had to interact with people to even get into a conversation, never mind hold them there, was in Sweden. Stockholm was the by far the most difficult place to really establish or engage properly, you know. We found out
you met certain people there too, or no? Was that not
correct? Yeah, we did. That's, well, when we were in Stockholm, that is where Douglas Falk met up with us, and Anders, who donated tremendously to the tour, and I mean tremendously. He gave a lot of money. We met him as well. And we also met another girl called Lisa, who was our Lisa's friend from days gone by. Yeah, and that's where there's a photo of, I think there's a photo, there's Jason on there and me in the cafe, and you can see everybody sat at the table. That was in a cafe in Stockholm.
Yeah, I think that's in the collage that I'm getting together. I don't think we've actually put that. Correct.
Yeah. So that, you know, so they were meeting up with people who were willing to do stuff with us was almost as important as actually interacting with the people on the streets, because just by connecting within the community, I realize how important that is. You know, it really sort of strengthens your back. It really sort of gives you that bit of impetus that you need. You know, it makes you a bit more confident around the topics and stuff. And because I don't know about anybody else out there, but I still question myself sometimes. And
I do all the
am I
time.
on the right am I on the right track here, or am I just simply a paranoid middle-aged geezer?
I think when you quit questioning yourself, you have lost it. Seriously, you have to keep questioning. I mean,
Yeah,
you keep telling yourself you're right all the time. You'll stay in that box. You know that. You just believe that. That's that perspective thing again. You know, just like when you tell yourself you can't do something, then you won't ever do it. Same thing.
yeah.
So I
And
definitely, yeah.
well, that's thoughtfulness, isn't it? And
Mm.
I think that's important, you know. But yeah,
Some
there we go.
people need to learn thoughtfulness still. We know that. And it's going to take time for this world to learn thoughtfulness. And I'm not just talking about the community. No. Um, for instance, I'm not here to shoot down anyone in the community channels. No one. If somebody doesn't know something, even if I don't know something, I don't want to be made fun of. I want someone to tell me, teach me, because that's what I'm here for. And I also want when I said this months ago, actually on a live stream, I want my mother and I want to feel comfortable to tell and bring my mother to a community like this and know that when she walks in, or sorry, walks, excuse me, gets into a chat room or something, that she's not going to be treated with, of course it's online though, I get it. But I'm talking about even people that are awake who say, I don't know if I trust her still in this community.
Well,
Months ago I didn't, and even now I don't, because why would I want to bring somebody in this mix?
Let me just interject there very quickly before I lose my trail of thought, because I'm very forgetful very recently.
Okay.
What was it I was saying? Oh yes. So I'm just joking. I know. So
forget.
when I want to watch some content, I want to watch good content. That's why I've always been a big fan of Globebusters, for example. You ain't going to hear people effing and blinding in their show. They'll make it clear.
Right.
They're gentle in their delivery. They're good in their delivery. They're very analytical, but also, you know, easy to understand. All that sort of stuff. Experienced guys, they know what they're talking about, and it's a good watch. Now, I've called Globebusters out there, right? But in a very positive way.
Of course.
But here's how fair I am. I ain't going to call out the ones who I think are doing an absolutely atrocious job. But there are lots of them, and it puts people off.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. It is very off-putting.
Well, I think everybody already knows what's going on in that part of the community, and the people that are fighting, or whatever you want to talk about. I'm going to say fighting. That's the wrong word. The point I'm making is, if I want my 10-year-old daughter to listen in on a conversation because there's some grown-ups talking about some good, interesting stuff, then I want to be safe in the knowledge that what she's listening to is clean and it's all right. Yeah.
And it makes sense. And unfortunately, I'm now starting to not even look at people's channels anymore or watch people's shows because, quite frankly, it's all wrong. It's bad. It's really bad. It's bad. It's tasteless. And I'll have a debate with anybody in the community about this, anytime, anywhere. I'm being serious. I don't care who it is, because it needs to be addressed. It's not good. It ain't good. And it upsets me.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I was there, and I'm going to speak for myself. It is my channel. I was there the day that I was happy to go on and discuss and learn more information about what they were still calling the Black Swan. And I was in there, and all of a sudden, it was just a live stream, by the way, so I remember it very clearly. And Karen got called out for not understanding it with, I don't know if it was either on Bob's show or whose show it was. To me, it was very important because it doesn't matter about how I feel personal peace. Karen's looked at very, very respectfully in this community. And regardless, even if she didn't understand it, why would we be calling her out for that? It's more of, well, we need to make her understand, not make her understand it, but, explain it to her so that she would come from a safe perspective. Or not, because people have their own opinions and they're allowed to that because it's their own channel, by the way, too. I'm not going to dog another channel for talking about flat Earth and I'm a flat earther myself. Are we on the same team? I'm confused here. And I'm not calling them out. This is not about a call out on anyone. It's just about why are we helping one another? That's where
just
I'm
because
at. I don't care how far we're into this.
Just because people are in a truth-orientated community doesn't mean to say that they behave accordingly, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that has become very, very clear and apparent to me.
Very aware.
And so I'm just going to park that thought right there.
Yeah.
That's it, really. I before I end up putting myself down a rabbit hole, but I'm just saying, you know, I think that you know, good content creation is not to be underestimated. But there are very few out there that do a really, really, really good job. And Bob's right with same team, absolutely, because that's exactly what it's about. You know, all our ships must be going in the same direction. That's a quote from Godfather 3, by the way. Yeah.
You know, and I'm not putting down anybody. Like I said, I love watching most of these channels, but I recently have been stepping away from some of the stuff because I just feel I can't be part of the drama. And it's funny, people that don't want to be part of drama get usually blamed for drama. Just putting that out there too, because it gets said a lot.
The thing is, Stacy, I want to learn, and I want to continue learning. And the only way I'm going to learn, you know, I don't know about you or about anybody else listening right now, but my best topics at school were always in class with my favorite teachers. Isn't that funny? So, so if the teacher had a way of delivering the message over to the pupil that interested me, then he'd have or she would have my attention. You know, and it doesn't matter whether they had a particularly fabulous radio voice. That wasn't really. You just get a vibe, a positive. You know, you get you get sort of a vibe from somebody, whether it tickles your fancy or not. And the same goes with this. You know, just because you're creating content doesn't mean to say you're doing anything with that, right?
True, absolutely, and a lot of things like I've heard that we've actually basically said everything at this point. I need to say it to more people that don't understand the message, and I think we all get it online. Now we are pulling and get, you know, people in the media online, maybe DLive, other platforms. We are pulling them in, but how many people really are we? We don't know who's shows. We don't know if it's real people. I went face to face, and I know I'm actually changing somebody's life. That they're going to go back and maybe speak to somebody else. I know for a fact that I spoke to somebody. You know what I'm saying? I need to see that it's spreading. It's almost like to me the fake statistics that you hear on the news. Can I believe them? I don't know. So can we really gather how many of us are real truthers? We can't.
No.
I don't care how many people are in a chat room. Are those numbers real? I mean, we're at the point we don't know what to believe, yet we think that we're getting truth further out there. Are we? Because when I live in my daily life and I walk out my door, I don't feel that way. I'm being honest. Don't feel that way.
Question everything, isn't it? Is the moral of that story, I would say. You know what I mean? And that's the way for, you know, it's only the reason I said this on the show last night. It's only recently, well, I say recently, last 3 or 4 years, that I've actually questioned literally everything. Before that, I questioned some stuff, and some stuff I just gained acceptance around it, and that was it. And I didn't really look into it much further. But through certain personal things that happened to me in my life at that time, it kind of coincided with the way I think about stuff now. So I guess it was all meant to be.
Speaking of, and I don't want to get into a deep, you know, understanding about what happened in that moment. You don't have to tell me everything. But what, I know you were home more probably and you had time to research, but what triggered, what did you see in that moment that made you want to research that, you know, the globe is not what you've been told?
It was never something I ever seriously considered looking at as a topic. I thought it was too big. Or no, actually, I thought it was too big, and at the same time, I thought it was too ridiculous. Because how can, this is my logic back then, how can you lie about the shape of something that you're living on? Surely there'd be people out there say, well, no, that is not true. This is true. And of course there are. but we have a thing called the media that are kind of in the way a little bit, just ever so slightly. But the first time I really thought about flat Earth, I'll use the flat Earth terminology just for argument's sake now, although I don't like using it, was about 4 years ago, and I was helping out in a charity shop here in Bournemouth, doing some volunteering, you know, giving back to the community, all that sort of stuff. Just I had time on my hands, why not do it? So I did that, and I remember the manager or manageress, she just said to me, "Oh, by the way, you know, because I kept on talking about some sort of topic that was going on back then. I can't remember now what it was. Anyway, she said to me, "Oh yeah, by the way, my stepdad, he's always looking into the whole flat Earth thing." I sort of looked at her. You know, she's old enough to be my daughter, and I was like, oh, "Okay." And then I didn't really do much for a few days, and then I decided to just have a look, and then I came across some videos in YouTube, and I guess probably 90% of people have a very similar journey to me in terms of how I came into contact with the information. You know, so the classic videos that one would watch, and then the first show that I started.
I know that because you're from the UK. Is it that you got inspired by stuff that was happening over there in England, or were you inspired by stuff that was happening on the, you know, from the Americans posting stuff? Because of course a lot of Americans were posting, and I'm, you know, about it back then.
Well, when I went onto YouTube the first time to look this all up, it was all American videos. I didn't see anything from Britain. So the first videos that I saw were the classic ones. They would be Eric Dubay, they would be ODD, and Mark Sargent, of course, with his clues. And then, of course, the first show I started watching, and I then started watching it regularly, was Globebusters. And I literally watched that every Sunday. Yeah. And that was my sort of backup plan for everything else for that week. You know what I mean? And it was good for me. It was good. Right. Not only was it cathartic, but it made it clear to me what was going on very, very quickly. You know, it was filling in a lot of gaps for me that I couldn't get my head around. So it didn't take long for me to flip, by the way, is the point I'm making. So by the time I'd looked and 2 or 3 heavy duty proofs were expressed to me, I flipped very quickly. I was very quickly on the flat Earth side. Yeah, that didn't take long at all. A few days.
Yeah. But was it already like a recommendation on you, and that's why you were looking at the videos, or what like sparked that interest to look at all?
I don't know why I looked. I just did look because I was doing at that time. I was still heavily involved with the whole 9/11 stuff, and particularly the 7/7 stuff in the UK that went down in July 2005.
Which I didn't know about until Discord, and I had to ask. Yeah, which was all new to me. Which was now a new understanding that the same thing that happened to us here, but 9/11 happened to you guys, which is 7/7, but this is done differently, but the same. From the same aspect.
Yeah, I mean, the same people orchestrated it all, you know, and we can pretty much agree on that. I mean, anybody who's got the power to lay the authorities lame and ensure there are no recordings and all that sort of stuff. You know, then you're talking very, very high up the chain here. You know, people have to understand that, and that all links in with the whole Jimmy Savile stuff, with the whole paedophilia stuff in the UK. Edward Heath, who used to be a prime minister, my landlady, for example.
Actually, get into sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, my landlady, for example, she has a theatre background. And she danced theatre for 50 odd years. She's 85 now, but she also ran a few dancing schools around Bournemouth. And some of the time, her and her girls that she was teaching, they would perform. And they went to Edward Heath's house, Ted Heath, ex-prime minister, the guy who brought UK into the European Union back in 1973. By the way, look it up. It was called something else, in the Common Market, I think it was called, something like that. But anyway, and she went around there with the kids, and they did the performance and everything else. And his personal aide came over to her and asked her for 2 particular children for, let's say, a private performance, right? I mean, it's like you couldn't write this
Oh,
stuff. And she then whisked them in the back of the van, all of the kids, quickly, and drove away. And she told me this a couple of years ago. By the way, this lady knows the Earth is flat. She said, "Yeah, I've always known the Earth is flat." She's 85. However, she still believes in politics. That's where I have my gripe, but that's another story
right.
again. But
So
yeah,
have you ever asked her though why she believes it's flat? Because obviously she was given at one point the same narrative. And when she was given that, does she remember when she was given that? I mean, because even with the video recently, when someone was 100 and I forget the actual age, she couldn't remember when the narrative was given to her. So I'm wondering, I mean, we all are told when that happened, but I'm wondering if these people remember and when their mind either changed or didn't change.
well, that's the subtlety, isn't it? And I think you're on about
Yeah,
Ruth, aren't you? The one that Dave Weiss did.
correct. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
This is the thing. What do I
Mm,
remember, or what do I remember remembering? That's the difference. And you know, I don't know when the flip came, when people started having globes on their tables in classrooms. I know there are
right.
photos out there. There's a famous one of 1892 in I can't remember now, in Boston, I think. And there's every kid has got like a globe um, on their little table
Mm,
and stuff.
I know what you're talking about.
Now,
Yep.
yeah, now how can you have a globe on a table if you've not even got the technology to get above Earth to even take a photograph, even if it was theoretically
Mm,
possible? It's just ludicrous. But I'm sure,
you would know that, right?
yeah, I think that would be around about the time, but I'm not too sure. But I think people were more cool around the whole idea of whatever shape the Earth was. I don't think it was really as much of an issue as it is now. I think it's become an issue
Yeah,
because of the
yeah,
magnitude of the lie, and because the realization, and this is for me the most important bit, the realization that it links in everything else.
yeah, it
Everything else.
does.
It's all connected, all of it,
Hmm.
all of it, in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
And
we
you
don't
don't,
have
you
all the
know,
pieces, but we're getting them. We're getting
well,
them slowly, but day
well,
by day it goes by.
what connects it all? Very simple. Us.
Mm,
We connect it all.
correct.
You know, and that's the thing. And as soon as people actually understand that, get their head around that,
Yeah.
then the quicker people wake up to the fact that actually there can be something done about this. You know,
Right,
I've heard
because when you
people
say
say
we
to me lots
connect
of
it
times that,
all, we connect it all
you
means
know,
that we actually can control this. Um,
yeah,
but not enough of us are like-minded. I mean, we can be like-minded, but there's only a few of us. We need more, which is the world around us, to everybody in our daily lives, to have the same kind of mindset. Can't go around turning everybody's TV off. That's not going to happen. Well, they could try to make something like that happen, but you know what I mean. You can't literally do that right now. So what do? You have to get out there in the streets. We're turning to media, complaining about media. That's my avenue too. That I don't like an issue. I just can't stand it. That yes,
well,
I'm using it right now,
I,
but it's not
I,
the answer.
I had a conversation with my sister a few months ago, and she's 5 years younger than me. Bless her. She's a good woman. I love her to bits. And I remember saying to her, you know, God, you know, look at what's on the TV again, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, and she said to me, "Geez, come on, Sven, you and your obsession with the media." And I said, "Well,
Hmm.
it's all right you saying that to me." I said, "I'm criticizing the media." I said, "But I'm not the one with the Sky News app on my phone, right?"
Right. Yes.
And she was like, "Well, yeah, but that's not the point. You always keep talking about the media that's to blame for this, that, and the other." I said, "Well, are you not seeing it? I
Mm.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
are you really that blind that you don't understand what the purpose of the media is?" And
Yeah.
she didn't get it. But she's very critical towards the system, and she doesn't believe in the whatever it was called, virus,
Right.
and what all that sort of stuff. Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's into her sort of semi conspiracies, but it only goes so far. That
And
giant,
that's what we talked about. There's
you know,
levels of awake levels.
well,
You
there's
know.
levels of willingness to step forward to each different kind of zone, right, and increase
Yeah.
perhaps your risk factor of giving up what makes you feel comfortable in life, which is your house, your job, your car, your husband, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So some people fall short of that, don't they? And they stop dead. Some people don't want to look into it further. Some people are not able to. Some people will grow into it with time. It took me 40 odd years.
Yeah. But as we talk about, which we go down I could go down many rabbit holes, is I feel there's a reset coming. I feel like there's been resets in the past. And especially when I start looking at different sculptures that literally look like they're 3D printed. And that's another show we could do too.
Well,
and then
look at that.
you start looking at mud floods and all the other things.
What did you say to me before the show? You said to me about the cathedral in Barcelona when we looked at the shape of it.
That it looks
built
almost 3D printed and wrong and too perfect, and we don't make stuff like that.
Maybe we can see that. Maybe we can see that again in a minute if we do like a short break.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Yeah, if we do a short break at the hour mark, you maybe could play that little segment again that you played before the show started.
Okay.
And that would be great. And we could look at
those. And we can go over them too, and I can pull them up.
Okay. But
do you want to do that?
I don't know. You can if you want to.
Okay. Well, we still have 4 minutes trying to rush us off the show already. And 12 people watching. Maybe we should say hi to the chat room for just a second.
You can do that. I can't see anybody. Unfortunately, guys, if anybody's watching, I'm not being ignorant. And I can't see it. I'm only on my phone here. My computer's broken, so I can't.
The man that says I can see too far so much. Yeah. Literally drives you insane, but he can't see you guys. Of course you can. Yeah. Hi, that flat flow. Thank you, Tommy, for joining us. And by the way, no, we did not get a response about or hear our video or anything about Roxanne doing a surprise. Maybe I missed it. I've been looking. I hope to hear something soon. Hi, Bob. Thank you again for coming and joining my show and being with Sven and I tonight. And I've read in the chat room. I completely appreciate it and respect you. I can't thank you enough. Code Still Truth. You already know how I feel about you. And Sven knows. I know. You got the engagement ring. You need to give it back. And then there's also, see, he's not saying anything. There's Brody tonight. Hi, Brody.
I'm going to reserve judgment on that
one. There's Pool Dog. I wasn't meaning the engagement ring for me. He's got an engagement ring for you, and that's what he was talking about buying him. You were cheating on him or her, right? Because I actually don't know.
I'm confused.
You're always confused. That's okay. You can go ahead and sit on your soapbox, and we'll take care of everything.
Well, hang on, Stacy. I mean, don't forget, I got some extenuating circumstances. We drive on the left in England. We have the worst weather on Earth, and we have the worst food on Earth. So that doesn't make for a very good combination. Trying to get your day sorted. Okay, right?
Well, I think you're crying a little bit because the worst food, really? Americans have the worst food. You have black seeds in your bananas still, which means you have real bananas, not genetically modified. See, sit down.
Yeah. Well,
he knows.
I forgot about America.
Real food. We'll get into that. Yeah, we will get into that topic because that's how I know that every single thing that I've been. Yeah.
America is Britain's saving grace for not being the worst country on Earth. Yeah.
No. Well, they took everything over here that they were going to do to you guys. They did the experiment, and they slowly bring it back to the other countries if they want to use it or not. Is that what you're saying? That we just are from you guys, and we're experiment.
Well, if we look at let's forget the history books. Let's look at what actually really happened. Well, what do we know actually really happened? What can we actually? What do we actually know happened? There's your first stumbling block right there. Right. So then you have to start looking at other stuff. Okay. Well, how come there's architecture deep in the ground, clearly older than when apparently the first settlers came over? So who was that? Who were the first settlers? Who documented all of that? You know, it's that in itself is a rabbit hole. You know what I mean? Looking at stuff like that, because we just don't know. You know,
and that's the answer is we don't know, but people we know, but they say they know. That's the storyline, that's the narrative, and most people say no, we do know.
But let's go with the official narrative, and let's just say that the Brits decided to, in order to expand economically, they had to expand geographically, which is kind of the way things work. Hence, a lot of the wars that are being waged now in the Middle East, the ongoing one, and all the other stuff.
Thank you, Bob.
But never mind Stacy B and subscriptions. How about me? Hang on a minute.
It's probably already sold to you.
I'm only kidding. I'm not really a content creator. I'm getting there though, slowly but surely.
I'm teaching him slowly. I'm teaching myself along the way too.
Yeah. But let's just presume that the official narrative is correct. Well, what has actually happened? Well, all that's happened is they've just spread out. You know.
Yeah.
That's all that's happened. Nothing more than that. The
same system. You got the names. They say they're trying to forget you guys, and basically forget their past and start anew.
The romantic notion is that the Americans wanted to break away from the naughty Brits, but the reality is that Brits were fighting Brits, right?
Yeah.
You had royalist Brits fighting revolutionary Brits, who had the support of the French. The French actually supported the revolutionary Brits, and that's how they eventually then, through their numbers, managed to then eventually tilt the whole situation in the favor of creating a new country that was independent from the UK, Great Britain. I think at that time King George III was in power, and you can imagine, right? So just imagine in those days, you're sat on your throne in London, in Londinium, as the Romans apparently called it, and you're sat there counting your pennies as Scrooge would do. And you have no idea what's going on with your department, as the French would call it, overseas in America. So by the time message had got back that things are getting out of hand over there, well, before you could deploy troops and everything else, the battle was already won, and that was it. But in reality, it didn't matter, because the battle, although bloody and although horrible, like as are all battles and wars anyway, fact of the matter is that was always the plan. The plan was always going to be to expand that part of the world.
Yeah, the plan is like now. Yeah, like
nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. But the illusion on ground level is, we'll call ourselves a republic. We have nothing to do with the Queen or King of England or whatever. But the systems are still the same. It doesn't matter. There's nothing's changed. It's not democracy. Look up the word democracy. What does it mean? It's Greek, and it means people power. It means people power. There is no such thing as people power. Nowhere on earth is there people power. Well, I say nowhere on earth. Maybe in little pockets of jungle somewhere in the heart of the Amazon.
Well, we can go there, I guess. That's what.
Well, we can go there as well. The Amazon.
There's at the next tour.
Yeah. But I mean, it's fascinating stuff, and then why is the US the US and why is Canada Canada? Why didn't they just all turn it into one big lump in the north? Well, they basically can't.
Well, Canada's quite big, though, but yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, why split it into two countries? And there's all sorts of things. How did America manage to buy Alaska from the Russians for how many was it? A couple of $1 million? I don't know. I'm sure someone will know that the answer to that.
And Canada's still got the Queen. They still everything.
Canada is still the head of state in Canada is still the Queen of England, same as Australia, same as New Zealand. Yeah,
it's just every so is everything.
And look at where these countries are. And look at where these countries are. Yeah. And if you look at a map, and you look at where the Brits or the Anglo-Saxons, let's say, have their bases situated, then you will come to a very, very interesting conclusion very quickly. So you're talking like the Falkland Islands, it's on the southern tip of Argentina, for example. You're talking, where is New Zealand, where is Australia situated? Look at where South Africa is. Look at where Canada is, the UK, and all that. Look at Scandinavia, big British influence in Scandinavia, for example. They all talk perfect English over there. It's unbelievable. Like,
yeah, you were telling me about the tour, and I had no clue. I'm like, oh, they speak English over there? And I was speaking to somebody in Germany too, and how they teach different languages and what goes on. Absolutely, it's so weird.
The Germans, they learn English at school. My daughter goes to a school in Germany.
Yeah.
And I've been to school there as well when my father was in the military, the British military, and we were based in Germany many years ago. It's going back to the 80s. Back in the day when U2 were a good band. That's another story. Anyway, sorry, just drifting off then. Yeah.
Daydream. Back when you were young.
But what were we talking about?
You're talking about bands and everything, and how old you are. Let's get back to that.
No,
did you seriously just lose your train of thought again in the middle of talking?
Maybe I did.
We should be discussing that, because that's how many times that I've said it today, that something I feel like is happening in that manner, that people are losing their train of thought, even when they're passionate about it, right in the moment, losing it. And it's been happening a lot lately. And it's not people that are smoking. I've heard that too. Not everybody smokes is doing this. They don't all have dementia. I also have friends that are doing this as well. So it's, like I said, it's not just in the community. There's something to that. Do you have any opinion on that? Because you're being affected by it on probably a daily basis. And I know because I experienced that with you.
Well, you are as well.
Absolutely.
Well, see, this is the thing, isn't it? Yeah, where I live, there's a gentleman downstairs who he has some really bad turns, and he's a nice guy. You know, he's a long friend of Anne, my landlady. They've known each other for 40, 50 years, longer than that actually. And a couple of months ago, he just decided to bash her and push her over a stool. She ended up on the floor, badly hurt herself and stuff, ended up in hospital and things like that. But he's a lovely guy. You know, but his dementia has got to an extent now. You know, he's going around the house now accusing people of stealing stuff off him, stealing his keys, all that sort of stuff. You heard that earlier, didn't you? When you and I were talking, you heard that in the background, and it was it's disturbing because I don't know how to react to that, because my instinct tells me go on defensive mode, but of course you try and think professionally and say, well, hang on a minute, no, this person's sick, so I need to sort of detach myself emotionally. But try doing that if that isn't your line of work, or you're not doing that on a regular basis. That's quite difficult.
It's very difficult, especially if it's someone that you know, it's your family or anything like that. It's even more difficult. People don't think that it would be, but it actually is, because you have a connection with them. You have probably problems that you've had in your past, and when you someone with someone with dementia, they have mood swings, go up and down, and it's very, very, very difficult to deal with them. They could come out of nowhere, and then it changes your energy. You don't mean it to, but we're human. So then, then that comes into play. Then we take it personal because it's family. So that's why a lot of times family end up putting people that have dementia or Alzheimer's in nursing homes, and it's unfortunate. And there's people that say, I would never do that, and still do, because I'm being honest, I've had to think about it. Would I do that now because of some of the things that I have seen? I might come to that if ever needed. If it affects me in my life, or affects my relationship to a point where it's bad, or people are getting hurt, physically hurt, something's got to be done, whether you emotionally want to do that or not. So it's sad, but also it takes somebody that can help that person understand that disease, and that it is a disease. They can't control that. That's not them. They weren't like that before, and people have to remember that in the moment too. If this wasn't affecting them, they would never be doing the things that they're doing in those moments, or saying the things that they say.
No,
so
absolutely.
why would we judge them based on this now? Because this is the way they are now? No.
Well, and I think, yes, you're right, absolutely. And I think moving away from the dementia thing, but I think a lot of it's to do with us and how we react to situations, right? So, you know, I still find myself stood in a supermarket, and someone in front of me might be taking too long to get the change out of their pocket to pay for their groceries or whatever, and I'll get a bit irritated. I'll get a bit impatient. I shouldn't be.
Yeah, honey,
and
don't make me upset. Yeah.
Well, no, but the thing is, then it's so how much of the problem lies with the person with the problem, or the person perceiving that person who
has the problem.
seems to have a problem. Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
you know, so is the issue
Because
when
they need to be treated, as medical patients almost. You have to. Yeah.
So if somebody is let's say in a spot of bother, well, take it for what it is at face value.
That too.
You know, and deal with it accordingly, rather than thinking into it too much, or thinking or taking it personally, for example, or whatever. When we start doing that, then we're definitely on the road to defeat, as the French would say, because they're used to defeats.
There's a saying that your dad used to say about something like this, and I can't remember off the top of my head. And I wanted to say it, but I can't remember. I have to bring that up again because it was something that's really important, because you had your mark back on it, and that we'll bring that up again because I can't remember. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about right now.
What's that?
Well, it's something you probably don't. It's something that your father had said, and reminded me when you were talking about a quote that he said to you that he always used to say to you, and you're like, no, I don't agree with that. Actually, I don't, and I can't remember the quote now. That was all.
Okay.
We'll come back to that sometime. I'll remember it. But it reminds me, like, when I say it is what it is. But it is what it is. These people have things going on. Even you, when you get upset at yourself for being mad at someone at the grocery store, but see, at least you reflected on that when you went home, or even in the moment said, wait, I probably shouldn't have done that.
I mean, in Alcoholics Anonymous recovery terms, they would call that doing a spot inventory. So you stand there on the spot and you take a deep breath, or if you can, you go to the bathroom if it's in a cafe or whatever. You just take yourself out of the situation and you just pray. And when I say pray, I don't mean saying the Lord's Prayer. What I mean is you're asking for something. That's what the word prayer means. It means to ask. Beten in German. That's what it means, to ask for something. And then you dust yourself down, and then you go out. You go back. There are little things that people can do.
Yeah, I know. You have to. I'm constantly making mistakes with myself. And I make sure that I try to recenter and change those things. I'm not perfect, like I said before, but nobody's perfect. And especially people that are even in the truth community are awake. We're all still learning and developing, but nobody on this earth is perfect and can still grow every single day. And I could tell my mom, stop saying that, you're almost 68, deal with this is the way that I am. I can't change. Yes, you can. You can change right now if you choose to. That's a choice that you're given. But if you don't want to, you don't want to. But that's still a choice that someone's making if they don't want to change their lives in some manner and take a look deep within. A lot of people though don't.
In some manner, it's a choice. It depends how much. It depends how much command you have over your own body and over your own mind. You know what I mean? And sometimes, sometimes that's not visible. People might appear fine. I've had it before now as well. When I had one or two things happen to me, and I remember a doctor saying to me once, I don't know what the problem is. You look fine to me. I was like, excuse me.
Right.
I think you and me need to have a really serious chat here, because you can't judge a book by its cover. I mean, it's one of the oldest adages out there. But people do.
Every day. I think we all do still.
Oh yeah, it's the first thing, isn't it?
I check myself. I do sometimes, and then I have to say, "Hey, stop." But I try not to do that. You know that about me. I try never to do that on any person that I meet in the world. Anyone that I meet, you're just like me. You have problems just like I do, and that's okay. To have problems, to say, I'm okay with having a problem in my life, and I'm not okay in this moment too, is to say, nobody can say that, or about having anxiety. When I know so many people suffer from anxiety, we talked about this in Discord, and that was when you were actually on tour when we discussed this, and so many people were really open about that, really open.
I remember the conversation like it was yesterday. Funny enough, I mean, with all the tour and everything going on, I happen to still remember that one voice chat conversation.
Me too.
And it was fascinating, and the reason why it was fascinating, fascinating is the wrong word to use, because that sounds like I'm looking at animals behind a cage and
It was
whatever.
fulfilling for me, emotionally fulfilling.
Yeah, I think the thing that
spiritually.
I think because everybody can relate to it, that's what it
Yeah,
was, you know. So when we were talking about anxiety and about what brings it on, or what we feel might bring it on, or why a lot of us have that underlying sort of deep buzz in our stomachs, like I do now, for example, right? Yeah, where does that come from? You know, where does that come from? It's
Do you remember having it since you were a kid, like since you were the youngest? Like when do you feel like that developed, that anxiety for people? I can't remember when people said it.
Yeah, I think my anxiety levels, not anxiety levels is the wrong way to say it. I would say that in the last 4 or 5 years, through me having sort of woken up to some degree, not 33 degrees, by the way.
Why not?
Well, you know, oh, that was one photo that was missing, by the way, wasn't it? It was the Tesla shop right next to the house number 33.
Put that in there. That's
I
right.
know. That's a good one, that is.
Even though the video turned out to be 3 minutes and 33 seconds, and we will not go into that. It's not
No, we won't go
up
into that.
for discussion,
I
okay?
know.
Because it affects me. That's all I'm gonna say. It affects me emotionally, so I'm not gonna go into it. It wasn't planned again, and I don't care what anybody says.
No,
But yeah,
good one.
strange things like that. Again, we were talking about that the other night, which is on Mark's show and tonight. Synchronicities as well. And it keeps happening. It's happening a lot with me and you since I met you as well, but it's happened to me even before I met you. Do you feel like it's happening more since you met me too?
I wouldn't say it's happened more since I've met you. I would say that I'm more aware to stuff. Maybe around about the time since I've met you. Yeah, that could be true. Yeah, of course, because you
coming
and I.
up tour around that time too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it all happened at the same time, didn't it? So
Correct.
because I was on the tour twice. I went there the first time out. We were there 2.5 weeks. That was from that was when I. Well, I won't go into all the story. I'm not going to tell it all now. But let's say I went to Germany with Jason and Roxanne. And then a couple of weeks later, I flew back from Barcelona, and a week later, I flew back out again to Copenhagen with Jason. Why am I saying this?
Oh, you're really losing your train of thought again?
I know.
I'm going to make you go back to that then. What is making you, because that answer was never actually fully answered as well. What is making you feel like you're this and that? Is that a Mandela effect? Somebody questions in here, Mandela effect. So do you think it is?
Well, I don't know. What is a Mandela effect?
Oh, we know what a Mandela effect. Well, actually, how do you classify a Mandela effect? Because now it is different. For me, it was things changing. You could verify by a logo changing, something like that. Valid physical things changing. Now it's more for me. It could be time lapses that it's going into, things missing in your house, your pictures changing,
But what were
stuff
we
like
talking
that. So
about?
then you
What were we
can't
talking
really.
about?
So when you're
Sorry, but what were we talking about a second ago?
What about me asking you right now if you think it's just about mental health because you're losing your thoughts constantly right now?
No. Before that, when I was saying I went over to Germany with Jason and Roxanne, there was a reason I was saying that, and I forgot what it was.
I don't know what your point was going to be. I'm actually unaware.
What did that come off the back of again? Can you remember?
No, I actually don't now because I've gone to it. See, that's the point. What is causing that?
Oh dear, I'm gonna have to start using my
I'm very serious. What is causing that? I've heard it so many days. I just heard it another day on another channel as well. talking about it on a live stream. It's becoming talked about almost daily now.
Well,
And I
we've
see it
noticed it.
amping up.
Yeah, we've noticed it a lot when we've been talking, because we talk a lot, obviously, together and
Yes.
stuff. And as we're
So,
not living together right now, although, you know, that will change at some point. But yeah, I sometimes in the middle of a conversation, I will forget where the hell I'm going with that conversation. I'll actually forget literally in the middle of it. And it's
but not
bizarre.
only you, me too at the same moment, which
Yeah, you
when
two
we're
as well.
listening, and I could even tell you what's happening up to this certain point of conversation, and then boom. And I'm almost wondering, is something being frequency, something happening that they've done
But it's
recently? Is
but it's
5G being put out more in this exact moment?
well, the bizarre thing is where I work,
Mm-hmm.
in the role that I do at the football club that I work at, I have to remember
Right.
like 1,000 things, and I get them all done, no problem. It's the
Yeah.
most bizarre thing. So it's like when you're sort of tuned in terms of having to function, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you get it done. But then suddenly when you start opening up and start talking about stuff that really matters,
Correct.
then yeah, what's going on there?
It
I don't
always feels like
understand.
it's something passionate or something you want to discuss and talk about. By the way, Mike is saying, Mike Spice, Michael, we've had many different names for him in Discord. He just said hello to you and me.
Oh, Spice is in?
Yes, Chris Spice is in the chat room
Yeah.
tonight.
Right. Good evening to you, sir. Nice to see you, man. Yeah.
Yeah, but have you heard
Yes,
anything in your? Go ahead,
he's another
sorry.
guy. He's another guy who I spoke to when I was on a tour bus.
Actually, would you get into that too? We're talking about that as well. We might discuss is he has said something in Discord about Gibraltar, wasn't it? And what happened there, or was that Sweden? Which one was that?
Sweden was the one with the Illuminati celebrations and
That's what it was.
festivities the
He was
week after we
asking.
left. Yeah. So we were
Correct.
like, we'd set up our banners right in the middle of the whole Parliament area. It was packed with people. People were walking past us the whole day, but nobody stopped. That was the problem. Well, I say nobody. A handful of people stopped, but it was difficult. It was my hardest day. Was Stockholm. That was really difficult. But yeah, and then a week later, I remember seeing it online, and Spice told me about it as well. That they had a massive big knees up, as they say, in the Nobel Center or Nobel House or whatever. We know that Mr. Nobel of the Nobel Peace Prize was a Swedish bomb maker, basically. He invented dynamite. So that's what that peace thing is named after.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's right there from Stockholm. That's the center of it. That was
Yeah,
interesting.
he was saying that people are not talking to you in Stockholm. The town hall is evil as well.
Yeah. I just read that. Yeah, it was the Stockholm Town Hall. Yeah.
Well, we were going over the pictures for the video today too, and some of them were amazing. But then there was a couple that I felt like if you look at it, it had an eerie feel. Even the clouds, the sky, the things were going on in the pictures. And for the love of God, I don't understand the balconies that have no floors, but they still have bars that come out like they were going to be there, but not there.
Well, that was Gibraltar, and Gibraltar was the strangest place I've ever
That's
been
right.
to.
It was Gibraltar. I'm sorry. You're
Yeah,
right.
and Gibraltar is like I don't know. Most people might know where it is. It's the southernmost tip of Spain, and it's literally across what they call the Straits of Gibraltar. And the next land across that stretch of water would be Morocco, North Africa. And Gibraltar is a British military base, basically. And it was the strangest place I've ever been to.
But were the people receptive there?
Sorry?
Were the people receptive there?
Were the people receptive there? No, well, not really. I think a lot of people just got on with their own business. We did interact with one or two mocked us. I remember talking to those Swiss football fans that were there. I think I mentioned it. And And I remember talking to them, and they were saying, "Do you not realise what country we're from?" And I said, "Well, yeah, Switzerland, quite clearly, because you've all got Switzerland t-shirts on, because they were playing a soccer match that night against Gibraltar."
Right.
And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, yeah, there are mountains and valleys in Switzerland. Obviously, the world isn't flat." And I was like, oh, "Okay, well, they don't get it."
Okay, now.
So that was the highlight. That was one highlight of Gibraltar. The other highlight was I had the biggest bag of fish and chips ever in my life. It was massive.
Yeah.
I think we fed all the pigeons as well, and I was full. That I remember having that in Gibraltar. And I remember doing a lot of chalk drawings. And the
Right.
last one that I drew was in the side of the entry to the police station. Yeah.
Yes, this was the last picture of the video, which
But
was yeah, dangerous
the
in
fast
itself, but you were
danger.
always against dangerousness.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, because it's such a police state, I mean, you notice it when you cross the border. You know, you're being looked at, you're being scrutinized. You know, they'll keep you thinking they might pull you over, but then they tend not to. You know, it's always to keep you on the edge. Yeah, it was the most bizarre place. The locals are basically Spaniards with English accents. It's
Hmm.
really bizarre. I've not experienced anything like that. It's just really weird. I just thought to myself, huh? You know,
Yeah.
what are the Brits doing here? This stuff, we shouldn't be here. But then once you look at where
Okay.
Gibraltar is, and when you look at the history of how Gibraltar evolved, and
Hmm.
you know the strategic importance of the place, then it all makes sense. But it was a fascinating
Yeah.
place, but I wouldn't go there again in a hurry.
Where would you go next? Especially if you could choose the next, I don't know, there isn't one that we know of, the next Globe Light Tour. Um, where would you choose next? And not necessarily, like I said, the United States, but over there even, on the other side of the world, spinning 1,000 miles per hour. But no, where would you choose next? Or what would you do if you could pick one spot that you would want to go to and go around and visit different cities there
I would
you
love to go
haven't
to,
gone?
yeah, I would love to go to Lisbon again,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
and do 3 days in Lisbon. I would like to do like a whole long weekend. This is the thing. That's what I
Mhm.
would like to do. I think you know, the Euro Tour, in terms of what it was set out to do, fulfilled its purpose, which was to get round as
Right.
many places as possible in a set time, and
Yeah.
somehow bounce our way through it, put a flag in the ground. By the way, who did put the flag in the ground on the moon landing? Was it Buzz? Was it Neil?
Oh, you tell me. Did
I
it
don't
happen
know.
at all?
All right,
Hmm.
okay. But anyway, so the Global
Yeah.
Eye Tour was basically it's to put out a statement and say, look, this is what can be done on minimal resources, ad
Hmm.
hoc, you know, on the spur of the moment. Jason didn't have much time to
Yeah.
plan it, so I'm never ever ever going to criticize him. I'll don my cap to him.
I agree. I
You
agree.
know, he did an amazing job, all things considered. Absolutely unbelievable. And the same goes for
Yeah.
Roxanne as well, by the way. I've got to be fair on that. So, and when, you know, they treated me well, and when they tried to get me out there
Hmm.
and stuff like that, you know, they covered everything, all the costs were covered, everything was fine. But now the next tour, I believe, needs to be less places, but more time in those places. So, you know, for
Right.
example, you
So
know,
we could
you could do
focus
it.
more on it.
Yeah, you
Mm.
could do a 3 or 4 dayer in Lisbon. You could go down to Barcelona and do 3 days in Barcelona easily. You know, yeah. No, I
Right.
shan't be proposing in Scotland, Cole. To see the truth.
Not Scotland. Somewhere
Not in
else.
Scotland, mate. No, no.
This comes to the man who said, "No, I will never, ever, ever get married again."
I did say that
But
once,
we
didn't I?
all know what I tell you. Never say
Yeah.
never.
Never
Things
say never.
change.
Wasn't there a
That's
Bond
right.
film called Never Say Never Again? I think there was.
Hmm. It does kind of sound familiar. But yeah, getting back to Buzz O'Neill too. Who put it in on the moon? I mean, who? I've
Sorry?
actually heard both have. Who has put the flag on the moon, by the way? And we know that in reality, our beliefs, it's never happened. But who has done that? I've heard both.
I think it was probably one of Stanley Kubrick's assistants.
That might be possible. How many were there? How many assistants?
Oh God, as many as it takes to shine lights in different directions.
That's right. That's right. Well, they talk about Buzz, and they also talk about him doing it as well. But yeah, just wondering what your thoughts were on that. But I think that Hollywood might have your answer for that. So maybe we should ring them. They might know. NASA might tell us because they tell us everything, right?
Well, okay. Well, let's put it this way: we'll have someone on this show one day. Won't be too long.
Okay.
I don't know if Bob's still in the chat. He might be. If he's not, then.
Well, he was definitely gonna go get in the hot tub with his wife, I believe so, and relax. So so I hope he's enjoying that right now. He can watch our show some of the time. I appreciate him stopping in, but enjoy life, please. I want a hot tub.
I'm hoping to get Cindy Holland on the show at some stage.
Okay.
She's been on the Globebuster show. I'm friends with her on Facebook as well. And she was the ex-employee of NASA. And fascinating is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
I love to hear her stories and stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She's a really good, solid woman.
Okay.
I believe she's in a new relationship now, so which is fantastic. It's just interesting to hear what people have to say about it. You know what I mean? And I'd like that because I think NASA also is when you look at what's going on there. I mean, it's so ridiculously obvious, but yet
ridiculous.
But nothing's been done about it. This is the thing. That's the thing, isn't it?
Nothing. Well, the thing is people are relying, and I'm not talking about us, but relying on the information getting to the people through media, and the media that is going to give it to them is not. You think they're really going to end their trending section, have our videos? Of course they're not. Well, maybe sometimes once in a blue moon might get one up there, but to really reach somebody, I could reach one person on a daily basis, which is somebody else, which is somebody else, and that takes more of an effect than I feel like. Are we waiting for somebody to actually get something sent to them from the actual media? Because we know when the media really ever puts anything to somebody's face, it's way too dang late. So I don't want to rely on that. You got to get out there like we used to do. Your actual real journalism. Did it ever exist? I don't really know because you can go back into many stories on that as well in different shows we could do on that. But that's why I don't like the word journalism even, or activism, put it that way. I like to actually probably say journalism now. Maybe we should use that.
I think any word with the word ism on the end of it is a little bit loaded. It's not good. Alcoholism.
Well, what about frugalism? I mean, that was a word that you
frugalism, however, is the exception to that rule. Yes, frugalism.
Would you like to explain that? Citation, please. Frugalism.
Citations. Frugalism, I think, is the art. Yeah, I think isn't frugalism the art of being able to bring in a short 3-minute break backed up with music and some photos?
Oh, is that the hint that I'm receiving right now? I get it. I see it. Frugalism. Sven's way of standing on his box and telling me how it is, and everybody.
Yeah. But that signal can only get through to you if it bounces off the ionosphere. You do understand that, don't you?
Well, then I'm going to be waiting for the rest of my life. There's no way that's happening. So what are we going to do about that? We're just going to stay here on air the whole time?
I would say press play.
Press play. Okay, we could definitely do that. We'll take a break. Preliminal. I'm so glad you joined too. Thank you. And Globebuster still is here, believe it or not. I don't know why you're not enjoying hanging out with your wife. She better be listening to her.
Hang on a minute. Come on. I mean, let's keep it nice and flat here.
Oh, of course. Flat.
This is the place to be. Right? This is the place to be.
Oh, is it?
Right. Okay. There we go.
That's right. He's in the hot tub now, so he's enjoying both at the same time. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of truth and your real reality existing together.
Especially when it's decent people. Especially when it's decent people talking about it.
Oh, well, thank you for saying some nice, kind words about myself in the chat room tonight. I will leave you right on that one just because you have so much egotistical stuff already. I'm kidding. No, you're a very, very compassionate human being, and we need more people who want to go on a compassionate level out here because that's the only way we're going to reach them. But instead of me continuing to talk, I'm going to take what? We could take a 3-minute and 33-second break for this video.
Yes,
Is that what
we
we're
are.
doing?
I can't wait. The
And
only
then we'll
reason
be
why
back.
I just want to hear the song again and see the photos.
That sounds good. I'll start a pot of coffee as well. So if I'm not back,
Right.
then you go ahead and talk. I'll be back in just a second, guys. Hang in there.
I'll go on mute and we'll enjoy the music and
You do
footage.
that. 1 second. Let me get it going. Entire screen.
Don't forget to wind it up on the side of your machine.
Winds it up on the side of my machine. Are you for real right now?
Yeah,
Just make sure it's loud.
like the old.
Okay. And it still says both, by the way. And I did look it up for you. I lost the video now. I wasn't prepared. Why am I not prepared? Well, give me 2 seconds. Do you want to speak on anything since I'm not prepared and we have errors everywhere? Sorry about that.
That's absolutely fine. Don't worry about
I'll
it.
do it from your show.
You know, always expect the unexpected. As they say.
Is that what you used to teach out there?
Well,
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good motto. But we're ready if you're ready. Okay, for 3 minutes 33.
See you guys in three
All right.
3 minutes. Bye bye.
Go ahead and mute yourself now.
I hope your entourage knows.
From the top.
Yeah, from the top, please.
Go on, Lulu. Easy doesn't everybody know? Comfortable with what you got, thinking out about you just don't know. Silence, golden, is it just unspoken? Sense I'm feeling oh so true. I don't heed the signs, that's nothing new. Your cosmic opportunity. If you don't take a chance, come with me. Look up, what's around you. Get out of Dodge. Look up, what's around you. Get out of Dodge. No time to lose, no time to waste. Get out of Dodge. Look up, what's around you. Get out of Dodge. Rearview mirror, scared of what's behind you. Saving money for a rainy day. What you haven't got, you can't give away. Token gestures won't sit around for extras. Getting wiggle room, taking mile, getting paid to fill you my fake smile. Your cosmic opportunity. If you don't take a chance to come with me, let's go. What's around you? Get out of Dodge. Look up, what's around you. Get out of Dodge. No time to lose, no time to waste. Get out of Dodge. Look up, what's around you. Get out of Dodge. Look what's around you. Get out of Dodge.
Fucking awesome. Well, I'm running out of ink for autographs.
Oh, there we go. Those are my dulcet tones right at the end. And welcome. I know.
And of course, you had to talk about autographs, and that's what I mean about his ego. Now let's talk about egos. Let's get into that topic. Perfect
Well,
timing.
you know, what do they say about a large ego is low self-esteem, apparently. So there we go. Go figure.
But is it? Do you really think so? Honestly, because we
I
talked
think
about
it's
egos and even in Discord recently, not just egos. We're talking about everything about people's emotions and how they act and all that. Any feelings on that?
yeah, I think, well, it depends on what your thought processes are, doesn't it? And it depends on how you're sort of tuned or wired, I guess. You know, if your automatic response to anything in life is a certain way, that you get used to that way of responding, don't you? And that could be
Of
based
course.
on a lack of confidence. So therefore a defensive kind of mechanism.
Okay. Right.
And so that would be a sign, I guess, of low self-esteem.
Right.
And a pretty large ego. So yeah, I think they work hand in hand, ego and self-esteem, no doubt about that for me.
Yeah.
So it's,
But we've also talked about how you need your ego. Your ego is extremely important as well. It's for discernment. So we've talked about that too. And you got to have a little bit of ego to have an acceptance to speak truth, even, you know, that you're okay with, you know, your truth, and you've researched inside and internal enough to say I am okay to speak
if ego is the right word to use, Stacy,
Okay.
right? So
yeah, we discussed that. Yeah.
I would sort of suggest, you know, if I put it into salesman's terms, let's say when I was doing my scholarship in Germany in industrial sales marketing and salesmanship, all that sort of stuff, blah, 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 blah. One of the first things you were always taught was to know your product, right?
Correct.
So knowing your product already gives you an advantage in that conversation. And so you don't need an ego. What you do is you exude confidence.
Right.
And that's much more of a positive thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
ego,
and also being able to check your ego in that moment when people are actually attacking you, and you're sometimes you said this, you almost feel like your I don't know if the word pride has been attacked, but when you want to call them, they say globers, or you want to call somebody who's asleep programmed to the mindset of believing that everything is what they're told, and they're aggressive at you. You also feel like, yeah, your pride's been taken down sometimes. Like I think you explained to me one time just recently that you felt that you took something personally at one point, and you had to the next day go back out and feel differently about it. Did you want to? I don't know if you want to talk about that on live stream or not.
Yeah, I mean, I remember
putting him on the spot. Sorry.
No, listen, I'm totally honest with stuff like this. I really am. I'm really open about it. I remember being miserable a few times on the tour. And I remember one occasion we were in Helsinki, I think it was, and an old gentleman came over in a suit, and he came over yelling and remonstrating with me about the fact that I was wasting my time doing this when there's a woman around a corner who can't afford a cup of coffee. That was his approach to me. He didn't even he didn't know what we were doing there. He had no idea what we were talking about. He had no idea what it was about. There are quite a few people there in Finland, by the way, who supported us that day. I'll get into that another time, but yeah. And that was the first time I kind of almost snapped, and I yelled back at him. I actually did. I squared up to him almost a little bit. You know, I didn't go right up into his face, but I sort of said to him, you know, who are you shouting at? I didn't quite say it that nicely. I said it a bit more aggressively than that, because I was genuinely sort of, you know, I just found it unfair that you would just approach people without knowing what they're actually doing with that sort of attitude, you know, and it didn't matter what his gripe was, you know. But then again, he may have had a bad day, but then again, why am I having to think about other people maybe having their bad days? Why is no one thinking that I might be having a bad day? Well, here's the thing.
Well, we all need to.
It's not about, it's about keeping my own side of the street clean, you know, and making sure that I check myself. You know, I can't be going around trying to control others and trying to suggest to them how to change their lives and stuff. It's about me and my my equilibrium and my role in life or whatever, and how I conduct myself and everything else. So in that sense, ego is a good thing, but only in that sense. Otherwise, it it gets the better, unfortunately, of everybody. That's my experience that tells me that.
And I think when I was speaking to Brian in Discord recently, he was explaining, that's Brian Copenhagen, that he would have an issue probably dealing with some of these people you don't know. He doesn't know how you do it. And these people that go out here and speak truth on the streets, because he would end up, always saying how he felt. And you're so patient, you know, and understanding, compassionate in those moments. And he probably couldn't be that kind of person. It's not, we talked about this isn't for everybody. Not everybody can, at this moment in their life, go out there and speak truth. It's not for them. And some people don't even feel like they have the courage to even speak out loud to anyone. I think that's where a lot of us are coming to, not myself, but a lot of people in the world are coming to.
I've never done anything like this ever before in my life, ever.
Right.
Now I've spoken in front of people. I've hosted seminars and stuff like that, and I've done PowerPoint presentations and all that sort of mumbo jumbo. But that is a controlled environment. You're in control of that environment. You decide how you structure the meeting, when it's set for, blah blah blah. When you're going out talking to people, you have no idea. You don't know who you're talking to, so you don't know your public. So that aspect of salesmanship goes straight out the window. What you're doing and then is you're just literally talking to people who are there. And I mentioned it yesterday on the show. I don't think I'll mention it again, but there was that famous thing where the kids got on our bus asking us questions. When I say kids, they're about 20 years old. That was in Germany, you know, because they saw the door was open and they saw the banners on the side, and they just knocked on the door and said, "Can we have a chat?" And they ended up in the bus with us for about an hour. There's a video of it out. So, yeah.
It's important. That's why it's important to go out there and speak at a passionate level. And I know you probably don't mind, but your answer, one of the things you said, one of the things you said to me was you felt like after you that next day went back and kind of went internal about it, you felt a little, but you handled it differently. And that when you went out there, that you started looking at every single person like it was you, and that how you were before you were, you know, completely awake to this point. You're not even, like you said, you don't feel like you're awoken yet. You feel like you're basically going through a process, a journey of experiencing things. Experiencing things is what it takes to even have the perspective in the first place. Nobody can ever understand your perspective unless they experience it. They can say they do, but they don't understand it. We've talked about it as well, but we have to at least put ourselves, like your father used to tell us, my parents used to tell me, put yourself in other people's shoes, you know, and that still does apply to today. Those things we should all be doing, but it's not as easy as it's said is done. You know what I mean? We talk about that as well. How can you put yourself in someone else's shoes if you've never, ever, ever went through something like they've been through in their life?
Absolutely.
But at least have an understanding.
Yeah, and I think and not forgetting where you came from and all those sorts of cliches, but I think they sometimes are relevant. And I think it's important that no matter who I talk to about this subject, okay, someone in the audience would say, well, what subject? Well, all of the above, you know, knowing that something isn't quite right and isn't quite in key. We all sense that. Everybody senses it. plenty of normal people with a small n, earthlings. They all know, they all know there's something not quite right. And I got that feedback when I was out there talking to lots of people, and it didn't matter in what country you were. It didn't matter. It was pretty clear. You got your argument.
People are still realizing that, though. I know. I talked to people in Discord, and they're still confused. They think that this is still a battle between countries, and your country did that, and your country did this, and I'm like, do you really think like that still? That is the mindset you have. We discussed this tonight, and that is what we have. Or we have to get to people that this isn't what's happening in other countries, that you're being fed on your news or necessarily fed in your books. And I didn't understand that until talking to people on Discord in other countries. There's no other way of finding out. No other way. The same with the rest of the lies. There
is one other way of finding out, and that's to go there. And actually experience it for yourself.
But who can do that? I mean, normally, who can actually afford? I know I can't, to travel to Japan and all these places to see what's happening right now. I have a channel that I consider that a respectable person who I would trust, who's telling me what's going on. But then again, I'm not there. It's still on digital. It's still on YouTube. It's still media. I'm not saying I don't trust channels and stuff like that, but it's still media at the end of the day. So I question that, because I question everything at this point. Just like we've talked about recently, and I'd like to get into, because I don't know if it was addressed the other night. And I want to know for myself. This isn't necessarily about everybody in the community or everybody in the world. I want to know because I have transparency on what's real and not. I've seen many videos about the rockets. I'm having my friends tell me, no, you guys are talking about you are taking rockets and hitting a dome, but you have no proof of that. Now, how can I provide proof to somebody when I'm sitting there saying that most of the stuff that we're seeing isn't actual, facts? It could be easily manipulated. And then I don't actually have any videos myself that I can prove that I hear about these projects. But did they really happen? Did they really exist? I don't know that.
This is where we find ourselves between a rock and a hard place. Because when we start questioning things, you and I, that is, Stacy, like you are doing right now, then we end up getting criticism from other people, because we're getting criticized.
I'm okay with that.
We're getting criticized for criticizing the official truth community narrative, right? So when people talk about Operation Fishbowl, which I think is what you were alluding to, and
right.
And the fact, or not, or the apparent fact, alleged fact, that rockets were shot up as far as they could go in order to establish where the dome was or whatever. I mean, I don't really necessarily buy into that. Not because I'm saying it didn't happen, but I just think it's too simplistic for me. Why on earth would you shoot nuclear warheads up to the dome? Why would you risk breaking it if you thought there was one there? That doesn't make sense to me either.
I've thought about all that.
Yeah. So, when you look at that official narrative within the truth community official narrative, you've got to question that. Because
I question everything.
Yeah, I question Admiral Byrd. I question whether
do as well.
That is, for me, so overscripted. For me personally, it doesn't ring true. Sorry, it doesn't. I'm not suggesting it's not true what he's saying, but I'm suggesting that how on earth does he know that? How on earth? When did he measure out that bit of land that he says is about the size of the US? I don't get that.
Right.
Sorry. Next. It's really simple.
There's no actual video. You're going to talk about it, but then you're not going to show us anything. I mean, picture, nothing. You're going to give me not much to go on here, but you're willing to put the information out. That's another thing that rings a bell for me. No, that doesn't make sense to me. There's something going on with it.
If we talk about other stuff, like, for example, the Knickerbein system that the Germans used in World War II, or if you talk about Marconi's transmissions across the Atlantic. Now we're talking business. Now we're talking with meat on the bone, because that is simply not possible on a globe. Right, those two things. There's a couple of very good videos about. So if anyone wants to check them out, Nickerbine, spelled with a K, it's a German word.
Okay.
That was a system they set up to bomb certain cities in England. One of them was Derby, which is the headquarters of Rolls-Royce. That's where Rolls-Royce is built. That's where they still manufacture today. Outside of their many thousands of square miles of manufacturing premises in China and India and wherever else, you know, people are easily paid off, but that's another story. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Rolls-Royce, or also the company that manufactures the engines for most commercial airlines, including the ones that apparently smashed into buildings and such like on 9/11.
Okay.
I know through somebody who works from Rolls-Royce that every single engine that they ever manufacture has its own tracking device. So Rolls-Royce tracks their own stuff. So then I would like to know the tracking data for 9/11, please. I'd like to see them if that's possible.
I'd like to see that.
But anyway, I went off on a tangent there.
No.
Yeah.
And I would like to say, you did say something about that I might go under criticism, or people that question stuff like this might go under criticism. And I did say I'm okay with that, and I am okay with that. I've always been okay with speaking my truth, whether somebody disagrees with it or not. I'm not here for their disagreement. I'm here for learning, and also giving what the knowledge that I have, whether it's for a lower K or capital K, it's still knowledge, not the false narratives that we're fed all the time. Now, I don't mind questioning what's being told. I have no problem with that. As I question all the time, is it flat? Of course it is. And I have to go, wait a minute. It doesn't matter. No matter what, the equations that they give us don't match. There's even the way that they talk, it doesn't add up. Listen to what they say. It's so fake. I mean, it's so real. That's why it looks so fake. Come on. Can't leave the Van Allen belt, but we've been to the moon. Of course, that's why they moved the moon to our atmosphere. The list goes on and on. So then I have to refresh myself and go, okay, back to reality. It is flat, or whatever it is. But it's definitely not what the heck they tell us. But what is wrong with questioning what the information that I'm being told, or the movies, or whatever, the videos, documentaries that I'm seeing? If somebody thinks that is wrong, then let's talk about that, because that's how we've gotten this mess in the first place, is believing whatever that I see and not questioning that, or the narrative, or following the money signs. But the money trail. It's the same point. So I welcome anyone who has that problem with me. Let's talk about that, but I think we should be able to talk about that too. There shouldn't be an argument. We should all be questioning.
If grown-ups aren't capable of being able to hold a conversation with each other, even if they're of differing opinions, then I'm afraid we've lost all touch with reality from that point on, because that for me is the biggest scandal if that's the case. People should be well capable of just simply talking to each other about simple stuff. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you are on any topic. Surely there's got to be a middle ground where you can drop your ego. There's the negativity of ego in play again, you see. Feeling that you might lose a conversation. Well, it's not about losing a conversation or winning a conversation. It's about having a conversation. And that's the thing that I don't know. It seems to go over a lot of people's heads, including mine at times as well. I'm sometimes very intolerant and can't wait to get away from a conversation with someone because I'm just really sort of irritated in that moment or whatever. So I have to tell myself that as well. You know, that's not me preaching to everyone else listening. It's just I'm actually talking about myself really more than anything else here.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what I say too. Everything, I think I said the other day that anything that I say to other people, I say to myself. If I tell people they need to always go internal or, recenter sometimes or check their egos, I say that to myself. I check my own ego all the time. I promise you. I've not been perfect in my life. I made mistakes along the way, and I know every single person has to. So I'm okay with saying that I, sometimes need to check my ego. We all do. But it's being aware of that a lot of people aren't. And that's where we've got to get back to understanding that these people aren't going eternal. And if you're not going eternal, where is their focus? On external things, materialistic things, and their phones in their hands, the media and narrative that pushes. So that's where we're at. And no matter how much we want to act like we're not in there at that mindset, yes, we are. See it every day. It's in the news. You see it also in your family walking down the street. They're on their
see,
phones. They're sitting at the dinner table on their phones. Nobody's communicating.
There's a lot of there are a lot of people aware of the the sociological maladies, for want of a better phrase. A good person to look into is a guy called Banksy, who's an artist from Bristol. He's a street artist, and he's been going for years. No one knows who he is. He's always remained anonymous.
I know exactly what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah, and but a lot of the issues that he addresses through his art, and this is the point I'm making, is to do with that, what we're talking about. People on their phones all the time, people losing touch with themselves, never mind with what's around them, and all that sort of stuff. So there are artists and all that sort of stuff out there who understand that and try and bring that message out in their own way. But of course, then when you realize where the money goes and who they're connected with and everything else, then it starts dampening that positivity suddenly. And you're thinking, oh God, they're just connected as everyone else.
Here we go again. Right.
Here we go again. Exactly. But the message, nevertheless, from him is pretty cool. So Banksy's a guy to definitely check out. Done some good stuff. And that was actually the first time I was going to meet Robin Campbell. That was a couple of years ago. I'd originally planned on going to a meetup in Bristol, and which is where Robin lives and where Banksy comes from. And Massive Attack, which they were a massive band in the 80s, a UK band, and a guy called Tricky. And who else was from Bristol? I think Stereo MCs were from Bristol and a few others. Anyway.
Was Robin like the one that kind of like, I don't know, nudged you to, hey, get out there, you can also do it too?
Yeah, well, he was the first person I was ever in touch with around this whole topic. And then things got in the way, and so it took 1.5 to 2 years before I actually eventually, after him prompting me, went to the convention, and he picked me up from the train station, and we hung out for an hour beforehand, and he was very stressed because there was a lot to deal with. There were people who had committed to coming and didn't, and he had to front everything, the money, everything. He had to front it all up.
Wow.
Nobody did anything for him. He had to front that money up.
Props to Robin.
And then and people were letting him down. And again, I won't mention any names, but I could drop a bombshell or two. And stuff like that was going down. But he is actually the physical reason why I got really involved, was his prompting me. So I'm forever grateful to Robin Campbell. He's a fantastic guy. Love him to bits. Think he's amazing.
Absolutely.
He does a great job. He I love his shows on the Fridays as well.
Yeah, I do too. Look forward to watching it. Yeah, it's lifting the lid.
It's the most nice entertaining show out there. Simple.
Yeah, it's a feel good Friday show. Makes you feel good. It does, doesn't it? And it takes
good show.
He takes the time to gather all the stuff during the week that people have posted. And I'm not saying maybe everything, but a lot of the interesting and your face kind of moments, and gets everybody in one little area to show and talks about it.
It's one of those. It's one of those shows you could leave running in the background while you're doing other stuff. You know what I mean? It's a really cool.
I
sort
find
of
myself,
show.
I don't feel like wanting to do that though, because I want to be at the screen watching it. And I felt like a lot of times you don't get that opportunity anymore because it's almost the same regurgitated information, we all go through, a lot of us do. And so sometimes I found myself pausing and just being in a chat room. This time it's like, I don't feel that way. I actually feel like I want to listen to what's being said. Yeah.
But I kind of try and stay away from the chat rooms too much. I mean, I go in there and say hello to people, and unless someone's acting like an absolute fool, I normally kind of keep my remarks to myself, sort of thing. But but in terms of actually show and listening to what someone has to say, or enjoying a show, he's definitely up there at the moment in terms of what's going on in our community.
Yeah.
Hopefully we could rival that someday. But
no, I'm not here for rivalry. I'm here for.
Oh, that's not what you said before we went live. You said you wanted to kill the whole community.
I'm here to take down everybody.
Yes, you did.
No.
You did.
So
I've got it written down.
you spread that information, one person hears it, and all of a sudden through the whole community, yep, Stacy's something again.
There you go.
But that's okay. I'm used to that because it's only gossip. It's only hearsay. You only know something from experience.
Her own boyfriend called her out
on her own channel on the second episode.
Yeah.
Write it down, duly noted.
But so Robin for me will always hold a place in my heart in terms of
course.
The whole community stuff and all the whole thing basically for me. And I will forever be thankful to him.
I think you meeting a lot of people through the community, which she encouraged you going on tour, has made you change so much in your life, and a more of an awakening process. It's quite interesting seeing it, and we got to see it on on stream, watching you go through that, and now we're kind of seeing you go through it a little bit again because you're being told different things about like the Mandela effect, and you're processing that right now. Whether or not you take it fully on board is still questionable, but you still are understanding it to at least a point of like you see that exists what we're at the point we're saying, at the level that we're saying. I don't know if you fully understand it yet. I don't want to speak for you, or if you feel like you believe in it, that it isn't actually something that's happening, that's supernatural. I don't know how you feel on it yet. It's still been up in the air, and you haven't fully, answered that question.
I haven't answered that question because I don't know the answer to that question yet. So that's why I can't answer the question. Yeah, I know that's a little bit sort of dead in the water answer, wasn't it? But what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say really is I can't grasp anything yet. Really, I understand kind of what's meant and what's being said, and learning new expressions about residue and all that sort of stuff. But I've got to get my head around that a little bit. But then, do I want to? And this is where my dilemma kicks in, and that's where my protective mode kicks into play as well. Again, there we go, the indoctrination straight away. But do I want to let other stuff into my mind when I'm trying to focus on something else? Is it going to enhance what I'm doing? Is it going to hold me back from what I'm doing? That sort of stuff. Excuse me. At the end of the day,
that is questionable in itself because each person handles the Mandela effect differently. From what I've experienced, each person does.
I don't want to be too flippant about that topic at all, because that would be disrespectful. I would never do that. But what I will say is that I will try not to give it too much credence in terms of my list of priorities. I'll have it as a side note, and I'm aware of it, and I'll continue to be aware of it and learn more. But that's all I can say really to that.
But do you think that's just because it's almost like the 9/11 research in the beginning, or the flat Earth research, that when you first got into it, you're kind of, well, and then you really needed more experience with it, more knowledge about it before you actually understood it and go, okay, this is possibly valid. Do you think it's one of those kind of things, or it's just more like, well, I get it a little bit, but I don't really even want to even process that, what you're saying, that reality that you're possibly saying exists? Because I've explained to you that it might be different dimensions, or different timelines merging. It could be them changing the past. I don't know. All those different things. But I don't actually know how you feel about the effect itself.
Well, now you are putting me on the spot. I don't know how to feel about it, because I guess I'm not affected by it. That's not to say.
That would be your answer right now.
Well, it would have to be, wouldn't it? Because I can't think of anything else that would be more accurate at the moment. I'm not saying I'm not looking at it. I'm not saying I'm not, taking it seriously or anything like that. Oh, yeah, of course I am. But
right.
At the moment, the penny hasn't dropped yet with me, perhaps.
How do you feel too? Because I was going through that about mixing. Like you just said, you have too much going on in your mind. Like you're dealing with activism on the globe lie and that end. But isn't that part of? Because we've talked about this. How I've actually spoke about this Mike and Discord about mixing the two truths together, because it's very, very difficult to mix those. It's something about your memory that they're saying it is, and actual stuff that we can prove for facts right now. To the system and to people that don't exist, and it's real. The flat Earth is actually, it's physical. It's at my feet. I'm walking on it. But Mandela effect is something that's like a supernatural thing that I have a very hard time expressing and showing that exists to somebody. Besides saying, oh, maybe they might say they're crazy. I can't prove it to them or where it's coming from. But I can prove that it's flat as far as I can see. That's something that's very easy for me to do. But it's different for you if you don't look into it, though. I know you get a lot, even myself, going on with activism on one truth, but we do include those, like you said, the globe lie, all lies. So wouldn't that still be some type of lie that is happening that has to be addressed?
Is it?
Is my point.
Well, this is my question. Is it a lie? What you're talking about?
Well, that's the question too. But then has to be then what research to even know if it's a lie. And then when you realize that something isn't adding up, so many things are not adding up, then what does that mean to you? Because we talked about truth on all other levels when things don't add up in 3 or 4,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we have, for us to have researched it for years and years and years, we have more than a couple coincidences that are happening. On a scale that's too high to even measure, to be honest.
How does predictive programming fit in with the Mandela effect, for example? I'm just asking because I don't know. I can imagine it. I can imagine that's an interesting take on things.
Well, that also goes with perception, predictive programming.
Well, yeah, predictive programming is exactly what it says on the tin, isn't it? It's letting you know what's going to happen, or it's certainly making you it's desensitizing you to an upcoming event, let's put it like that. And of course, and the event can be anything. It doesn't have to be an act of terror. It can also be a famous sporting event. It can also be a branding of a new label. It can be the next top model. Well, it doesn't matter. There are lots of ways of doing that to program people, or to continue having them being programmed.
And people that have been programmed that have a reality one way, and then now it's another way. So which one's programmed? Both of them programmed?
Because your response to your programming will also be programmed, won't it? And
Well,
that's the
this
thing.
is already, we say, is a program in itself with the mindset and indoctrination that's everywhere. So wouldn't that also be this realities that exists now is basically programmed? So both of them are a program, then you would be saying on that. If that's what you take it.
If that's the
Or
way
is
you take
everything
it,
programmed?
or is nothing
Is that why
programmed and
I think we're
everything
missing
is the
it
way it should be?
Is everything the way it
You
should
know.
be? Yeah, you just said those words. Is everything the way it should be?
Is everything the way it should be? Did I say that? Well, I may have said
Yeah.
that. I don't know. May have got my words muddled up
No. Answer that is
there.
no. Nothing is as it should be. Nothing.
No, well, this is. But what is should be? That's my question.
Should be is truth, real.
Well,
Nothing that's lies.
okay.
That's what should be. Should is what goes back time to the basics natural, where somebody was messing with something, or something was
I-
altered.
I'm gonna get seriously annoying now as an Englishman.
He's going
And,
to. Wait a minute, you're going to? I thought
I
you
am.
already were.
Well, I'm not quite there yet, but hold your horses.
Yeah.
I shall be in a brief moment. Are we talking about the English language now?
Well, now we brought
Should-
it back to the English language. We can address that if you like, or American English, whichever one you like to talk about.
Well,
Which you never knew
which-
existed until you met me.
whichever doesn't cause my ears to bleed. So
That's
I would
right.
opt for normal English. Thank you. Math, not math, for example. Yeah.
I'm sorry. We grew up and it was math class. Okay. No S, math.
Mathematics, plural.
Which I do agree. It is from mathematics and yes, probably should be maths.
No,
So
it's not.
yeah, I'm
It
going to
should be
correct
maths.
it.
It is maths.
This is the battle that I deal with daily from the Englishman.
On a daily basis, I'm afraid. Yeah, that's
Daily
it.
basis.
On a daily
I'm going to
basis.
school with an English teacher every morning
Listen,
before I even wake up.
I'm not teaching you English. I'm making you aware of the fact there is such a language. That is all.
But what is language? Language is a made man.
That's a totally different conversation.
Or is it? Because this is about all truths. Isn't that correct? So where does language come from? When did it
Well,
start?
here's one for you. Does anybody out there has anybody out there ever heard of the language Esperanto? Please let me know.
Well, I have, because we have discussed this one time.
Yes, we have. But does anyone else know about that? It's very interesting. Look that one up. Esperanto.
I know I didn't. But you want to go into that real quickly because it's not that long.
I'll go into that another time. But when you look at the religious powerhouses of Europe, that will explain to you what languages were used in what regions. And there was a time when Latin was the main thing. For example, my dad went to a Catholic school in the 50s, and Latin was the language. And then English was your mother tongue, but Latin was the language. But there was an attempt to bring about a universal language. Excuse the space oddity pun there. And it was called Esperanto. And what they were trying to do was blend in all these different languages and have bits of Spanish mixed in with bits of English, bits of German, whatever,
Right.
and simplify it. Yeah, and there are books out there. I haven't got one myself, but I'd like to get hold of one just to see what was going on there and to understand why. But yeah, interesting. Esperanto. It's not a name of a coffee. It's the name of a language.
Speaking of, I was just thinking how I could make a coffee without taking a break, because I don't know if Sven could speak for a good 2 minutes or more without seeing the conversation in the chat or anything. Can you tell us a story, a bedtime story or anything?
Oh, my word. Can I tell you a bedtime story?
We'll make it, of course, family oriented, but yeah, it's a bedtime story.
Well, or maybe you could just put in another music break.
That's the thing I was looking for as well, by the way. And I was just giving you crap by 10 story. What song would you like me to play? Because it's going to be, of course, we have to do about copyright, and we're going to play certain music that won't allow that to happen. And we could do the one last night, real quickly.
Yeah, go for
again, the blues one. What was the name of that, real quickly, by the way?
It starts on 49 seconds, by the way. Sorry?
So what was the name of that song, by the way?
Dreamland Blues.
Dreamland Blues. Okay. Should be on my computer already.
49
Get the Lounge Woman. Yeah. Dreamland Blues. There we go. I got it.
There you go. This is pretty smooth. Let this run for a little while and then it's cool.
Well, give me 1 second to open it. All that. Now it's not, of course, we haven't made a video on it yet. So it's going to be playing from my desktop, which is fine for a second. It won't be very long that I'm gone. And I think it's a very long song now, isn't it? You said no?
It is. It is, but we can I'm sure fade it out halfway through or something.
Correct. I'll start it in at, what was it? Because it starts at
49 seconds.
15 seconds. 49 seconds?
Yeah.
It'll let me. 48. How about that? Okay.
That's all right with me.
Got that. We're good to go in there. And then we'll be right back. Hi, Robbie and SAG. And of course, Mike still. I don't know if he's sitting here in the house. I thank you guys for joining. And then we'll be right back. And get everything set for share screen now so you can hear the audio.
Thanks.
Entire screen. It's fine.
See you all guys in a moment. Okay.
And make sure you hit that mute for a second. I'll be right back.
Wow.
There we go. Now we're back.
That
It was good.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad considering that's a recording of a practice room session with a phone chucked in the corner, literally, and that was it.
I thought it was done well.
Yeah, we were. I remember we were playing in a shed in the back of a friend of mine's garden just down the road here in a place called Pool, and yeah, and he's got like a garden shed. I don't know. It's maybe I don't know. It's about 10 foot by 15 foot, maybe maximum. But we had a drum kit in there, and he had electricity and all that sort of stuff. And now I remember us practicing. There was just the three of us. It was myself, Lucy, the bassist, and Alex, who school teacher by trade, who mocked me to hell.
Did you cut out? He mocked you too. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I missed what you said or if the whole chat missed what you said, but I heard he mocked you to hell and then you cut out for me.
Oh yeah, he mocked me to hell on my whole flat Earth idea because he's a physics teacher.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I remember having that conversation with him in his room when we were looking at a couple of our tracks to see what we could do with overlays and stuff. And I said to him, "You teach physics, right?" And he went, "Yeah." And I went, "Well, can you please explain to me if we're on an Earth the size that we're told we're on?" So that was offering him right there a get out of jail card. Then please explain how come I can see this, right? And he wasn't too sure. He was like, it kind of irritated him a little bit, you know. Now I know there are discussions about how far does the 8 inches per mile square go? Is it even applicable? And all the rest of it.
Yes.
Fact of the matter is, you can see too freaking far, and it's as simple as that, right? And when we say see too far, I don't mean to see across a lake until you can see no further than the horizon. I'm on about you can see things in a distance that you shouldn't normally be able to see. That's the point I'm making. Objects, right?
Yeah.
Quite simple, really. Yeah, and they ain't swans.
Everybody can, by the way. Yeah.
Sorry?
So no, and everybody can see that if they actually pay attention and look.
Yeah, it's quite simple, you know. And and I remember saying this a few times that as a kid I used to travel on across the English Channel from France to England and back or whatever. And sometimes on a clear day we could see the White Cliffs of Dover from Calais very, very clearly. And my mum used to always say to me back then, well, it's only because it's a clear day. None of us thought about the shape of the Earth. None of us thought, well, hang on a minute, I should be able to see that 20 odd miles away.
Right. The clear day, it doesn't mean anything. It's the fact that it shouldn't be able to see that.
Right. Yeah. But people use the clear day as an excuse or an explanation because they're unaware of the fact. And this is the point. And this is what I was saying about the feedback I was getting from the tour. A lot of times when I was talking to people, they were unaware of the fact. They didn't know. They didn't even know the mainstream fact. They had no idea.
Of course not.
And then when you said that to them,
most Americans don't either. Yeah. United States does not know.
Yeah. That's the nail in the coffin, you know.
I didn't know too recently, and I believed it was flat already. And I already did my research, but until you guys were out there on tour and speaking about the dimensions, I had no clue. I'm like, what did he just say? which then made me go, you're right, which I already knew it could see too far, but there was nothing giving me valid proof to say, hey, wait a minute, I actually can fight this. It's not my fault you say this. You said this, and now you need to back it up, your claims, and your claims won't add up. There's no way they can add up. Because I
And don't
know
forget,
how many
we have
miles away I can see it.
we have to remember one thing here, and let's keep this really simple. Let's keep this really in layman's terms here, real basic stuff. If you're stood on a ball, no matter how big, it is moving away from you downwardly in all directions.
Correct.
There ain't no hump in the way. Even if you were living on a sphere, you're on the top of it all the time, at all times.
Yeah.
You have to be.
Yeah.
Right? So bearing that in mind, think about the arguments that are used to and fro. It's always the visual straight ahead, or maybe slightly to the left, or maybe slightly to the right. But no one thinks about the fact that the whole ball dimension goes in all directions. It goes in all directions.
Has to apply. Correct.
Behind you,
absolutely.
next to you, you know, in all directions. So no, it does not make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't now. It did to me 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Did it though? Did it make sense, or you just took the information on board and you just knew it?
I never thought about it. Right. So
it doesn't actually make sense. It's information.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's about.
Because I don't think anybody truly understands the garbage that they feed. Truly understands that. Because if they actually understand it and take it from logic, you can't. That's my perspective on it, though. You can't take it from a logical perspective, take everything out, think about what they're saying. It makes no sense. But in school, you just want to get your grade. So, of course, you got to take it on board, Does anybody really understand it? Truly? They try to make sense of it with math equations. Of course they do. With everything, it makes no sense. But even their math equation doesn't make sense. That's the point.
Mathematics only makes sense within mathematics. Outside of mathematics, mathematics makes no sense at all. Right? And let's just keep it at that. Are you writing that down? That's a pretty good speech. That's a good one-liner. I'm proud of that.
In the soapbox.
It's not bad at all.
Oh, okay.
But it's true though, and the same goes for everything else. You know, literature. I remember having to study English literature, and I remember my lecturer asking me about what I thought Shakespeare thought in a particular verse in one of his whatever. And I kind of, I won't say I reached breaking point, but I sort of said to him, you know, how the hell would you know what Shakespeare thought that day when he wrote stuff? And how do you even know he even wrote it in the first place? How do you know this? And that was back in 1989. I was already asking my lecturers that sort of stuff. So I was always that way inclined anyway, to kind of sort of get on people's nerves. Yeah. But maybe not deep enough. But at that time, maybe it was the right deepness, the right depth, depth. Maybe it was the right depth for me at that moment in time in my life. You know, perhaps. Maybe I wouldn't have, you know, would I have been ready for this 10 years ago? I don't know. Would I have been ripe enough for it? Mature enough for it? I don't know. Because this is another thing. You know, we have to develop a lot of maturity around all of this, which I find is lacking in a big way.
But I think if it was taught as a young child, you wouldn't have to go through this, because what is there to rewind? Your only thing you're rewinding is the fake reality that you've played and that you've made up in your head that they've told you that exists. Besides that, you're not losing anything. Because when you're a child, I guarantee if they didn't tell you crap, you'd still believe it's flat. You know nothing that it's flat. You wouldn't believe in a globe. You wouldn't think you're spinning. None of that. So what are you losing when somebody tells you, hey, the earth is flat? You're not losing anything. I feel like you're gaining everything. everything to gain in this. But I do understand if you're already to that programming and brainwashing, it's not about the shape of the earth then. That's the problem. It's about you're not comfortable dealing with losing the program.
It is and it isn't about the shape of the earth. That's the thing about this topic. You know, I feel days where I really want to push it hard, and I feel days sometimes where I think, you know what, it's not actually very important for today. We have to remind ourselves of what's at stake here. This is massive. This is fundamental. You know, people really need to get their heads around how important this is. Never forget, you know, this makes a lot of things crumble if this ever came out. And I am sure that there are many people out there that know the truth, like don't think they know, but actually really do know firsthand. I think there are some people out there that know that. And well, there must be, because either way, someone somewhere knows something. You know, and I'm not about the model of the earth, by the way. I'm just talking in general, you know. But
or they don't, and you go back to people that get very spiritual, and I want to say spiritual because that to me is different than religious. But if you get religious, then you could say no, nobody knows anything besides one higher power, and they're all trying to figure it out. You know, I mean, you could go down that avenue, that path.
Yeah,
and a lot of people do, and that's great. That's good for them, and whatever makes them comfortable. I'm not on a religious aspect. I'm a very spiritual person. So,
but what I meant was in the sense that I was talking about earlier was the fact that you know, there are powers that be, and they are run by humans, no matter what David says, and so we always have to bear that in mind. Was what I'm saying. You know.
But then again, you know, we've also said that we got to. People call I see some videos of people calling other people cowards. Like when you see people sitting there after the conference. I'm sorry, they were sitting at the conference trying to discuss the moon landing and all that, and how they felt. That was them feeling and distraught. People get called cowards, but then again, their families aren't being threatened. You're not being threatened at all. You have no idea what they're going through. So we forget that these people are still human. And we want to throw that, out there that they're cowards. They don't care. If I was in dangerous shoes, I'd do this. And
I remember we were in. I can't remember whose show was it again. I've forgotten whose show it was, but we were in there, weren't we? One afternoon, or it was afternoon for me anyway. It was probably morning for you. But and I remember one or two clever dicks deciding that the astronauts on their post moon landing, in inverted commas, sat there in the press conference looking dejected and all the rest of it. When you then see people posting comments in the chat like cowards and stuff like that, then you have to ask yourself, well, where is your brain, mate? Because clearly you're not getting something here. You know, and when none of us who are sitting here right now are privy to what those guys back then may have been told, whispered in their ear, all the rest of it. We don't know anything. We have no idea. We're just looking from the outside in, or trying to look in, and trying to gain kind of a bit of affirmation, let's say, for what we believe to be wrong or right, depending on which side you're looking. So, you know, for people to get so lazy with comments like cowards and stuff like that, I've got no time for that. Sorry. You know, is Neil Armstrong a coward? I don't know what duress he was put under. How the hell do I know that? That's unfair. You know, you just don't know. People don't know. And if you don't know, shut up. Simple. It doesn't matter what we're talking about, whatever the topic is.
Yeah. We've talked about, speaking truth, and especially people out there who actually doing activism, doing it something in your own town, what that could mean. And,
Indeed.
I think about those things and I'm like, well, wait a minute. What you have a child. We've talked about that. What if somebody threatened your child? How would you feel? What would you do? You're showing so much to you. You probably stop right then and there. Not everybody's going to seriously just keep talking truth. And was he a coward because he quit? No. It's because he gave a crap and has love for someone in his family more than the system that, that's trying to take him down. It has nothing to do with being a coward. They're not the ones in their position. They have no clue. And until you're in that position, experience that we talked about, it takes experiencing something to really understand it.
Well, my dad
knowledge about it.
My dad was in the British forces for over 20 years. And without going into too much detail, he's a man of character. He has a lot of character. He's a fighting man. He's quick thinking. He was a brilliant boxer. He boxed for the British Army. Excellent at table tennis and that sort of stuff. In fact, I could tell you a little side story before I get into it. When my dad served in Northern Ireland with the British Army in the early 70s, they used to smuggle him over the border to the south of Ireland, like the Republic of Ireland, so he could practice table tennis with the Irish Olympic table tennis team. That's a true story, by the way. Yeah. So there you go. But getting back to our original topic, and here we go again.
No.
What was it? Yeah.
Really? I was sitting here posting comments on here for the channel, and you can't keep on topic.
Well, you're gonna have to rewind. If you
There's
rewind
no
1 minute,
rewind on a live, okay? Someone else can rewind.
Where's your Sony Walkman? Come on.
I'm running a live stream. That's what I'm doing. Here. No, what we're discussing, and I was actually really, really paying attention. You're about to go into a whole new story of your father, is what you're about to tell me about. And this is also about cowards and people speaking out and saying that, you don't know your family could be being attacked or being threatened. We were talking on those lines.
Yeah,
and then
right.
You were going to
yes, yeah. And my dad was, he was on the receiving end of the Masons. And God, I remember it very, very clearly. I was only about 12 or 13, which, for me as a boy, when I was that age, 12, 13, I didn't miss a trick. I soaked everything up. Everything that was around me, I soaked up everything. But anyway, and I remember overhearing the conversation. My mum and dad were in the kitchen, and he was talking about how he was ordered into someone's office in the camp, and basically he was given an ultimatum. If you can't stand the heat, get out the kitchen. So all his promotions were blocked from that moment on. He didn't get promoted at all. He should have left as a fully commissioned officer easily. He was that good at his job. But he didn't, and they kept him low in the ranks, and he had to stick it out. That's how they got to him. And I think that adds a lot to his medical conditions, because that would have affected his ego, dare I say, and it would have affected his family man kind of stance, in terms of, well, I'm doing this for the family, but then I'm going to take a massive shot here. And he did, to be fair. That's what he did. So for that reason alone, for that reason alone, he will always command my respect. Always.
Exactly. Right.
So I have to keep reminding myself of that. If I then meet him and he gets aggravating, this is going back to a conversation we had earlier, people suffering, I mean, this guy has to take 15 tablets a day just to function, and this is a guy who joined the British Army because he had no other work opportunities up in Liverpool back in the 60s. And there are thousands of people with the same situations. So, and the highest rate of suicides in the UK are they're all military. They're all ex-military. I think there's I saw a stat very recently. I think it's like 10 a day or something like that.
Oh wow! And I hope those stats are incorrect. But yeah,
it's heavy stuff.
It is.
It's heavy stuff.
All this is heavy stuff when you get down to the basics of it all.
But but the thing is, when you reduce it down to ground level, and you reduce it down to people's individual experiences or individual, God, do you know what? I can think of the German word and I can't think of the English word. Oh my God. The individual, the German word is Schicksal.
Well, I think that was wrong words for that. That's not gonna help me much. Google might help in that. Or someone that I am part German, but I don't speak German yet.
Situation. Well, basically, situation, predicament, that sort of thing. That's what it kind of means. Yeah.
Okay.
And
I think though, go ahead.
No, sorry. Go on, love.
No, I think that a lot of us need to. No. Even in the community, I'm talking about in the world, need to take a little bit of a step back when we start evaluating people. And we do evaluate people. Everybody that's aware is looking all around right now. And remember that even the ones that are working at the jobs giving out vaccines, yes, I don't agree with it, but they still have a family to feed, and maybe they don't know the truth. And even if they know the truth, maybe they haven't come to that complete spiritual awakening. Maybe they never will, enlightenment that they say, hey, I want to step away from this and do something different. But there's a lot of that going on. It's not just in, the higher up people that we're against. No, it's in our daily lives. We know somebody that's working in a field. I guarantee it. We know somebody that we don't agree with what they're doing, but you still love them and you still understand them because they're family or friends. So we need to have that same, I'm not agreeing with what the governments are doing. I'm not agreeing with what the politics are saying and the laws that they're passing. At the same time, like we say, at a local level, a lot of this is real. Laws are still being passed that we have to care about, and we still have to care about the people. And a lot of them are in the system, yes. And yes, we're going to have to reach those people in the system in some way and somehow get them on our side, if you want to call it our side. I don't want there even to be a side, but there is. It's becoming down to truth and just BS is what their two sides are.
It's far more subtle. It's far more subtle than all of that. It's not sides at all. It all blends into each other. It's all one big gray soup. There's no black and white. Right?
Yeah. What's about the unknown? What do we know at this point? We know a lot. I mean, it was serious.
Well, you have to first of all know your own truth, your personal stuff. It's what we spoke about earlier. And if that ain't in place, then nothing else is going to work. If we're talking about conveying a message, if we're talking about actually waking up and experiencing the journey to that message, that's a different thing altogether. And I find myself right in the middle of that right now. When I was on the tour, I was right in the middle of all of that. But the beginning of it. I didn't know whether I was coming or going, but I knew I was doing the right thing, though. And that's the bizarre thing about it. I never went there with a plan. It was like, yep, that's where I need to be. Boom, done.
Set myself in the moment, and that says what happens, happens.
Yeah. I was packed and gone in a day. Almost kind of thing. You know what I mean?
The truth, it should come out pretty natural. If it's honest and it's real from you, it should come naturally and easily. You shouldn't have to think about it. I know when we get to a topic, sometimes I get really, really into it because, it's important. I'm passionate about it. So it should be easy for people. If there's something resonates with them to get out there without a script, you don't have to think about it. When you think about it, it makes it even harder. So I know we all could do it, but I also want to ask you a question about gas pressure for a second because it got brought up on either Mark's show or our show, so I want to make sure it gets discussed so it doesn't get left in the open. He was saying at one moment, because you were asking him, or I was, about why he still believes, that it's not flat, and he says, well, I know the space still exists, and that he's seen things out there and whatnot, and that there is no dome. And you said, well, we'd have to be in a closed system. We got the topic of the closed system and air pressure, and gas pressure. And he said, no, because the gases and everything are different than they're explaining. So that's why we don't understand why there could be possibly leave. Even if there is a dome, we could get through, or it's a thick atmosphere, but we don't know there is a dome. What do you say on that? That people could say, well, then, especially the people that believe there are a lot of the stuff is lies, that they can even say, well, hey, we just don't understand gases and how they work now. It's totally different than they say.
I think it's quite simple to answer, actually.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's very simple, actually. I think, I don't know how we'd say it in the UK. I would say if I was in the third year of comprehensive school, I would understand this.
Yes.
If you're creating any form of pressure, it needs to be contained. It's that simple. It's that simple. And anyone who doesn't understand that, I'm afraid, really needs to have a good close look at themselves and work it out, because how on earth can you
prove that you can do that?
Please. I've got to, So when we expand it to, let's say, Earth size, and we talk about PSI, measurements, and all that sort of stuff. That is only you can't do that unless it's enclosed. It's impossible. It doesn't matter in what direction you're looking. You have to be enclosed. Now, whether it's dome shaped or any other shape, I have no idea.
No.
But one thing I can say is that we are not living on a spinning MF water ball in an open vacuum of space.
That's correct.
And by the way, an open vacuum that is impossible to replicate on Earth. So why would you send people out to an area that you can't even replicate and simulate on Earth in the first place? Is beyond me. But I'll leave that to the talking heads. You have to think about that sort of stuff. It just makes no sense.
None of it. That's what I was saying earlier. Did it make sense? Oh, really did it? Because I don't think it did. It didn't for me. I just said, okay, I'll absorb it, give you your answers, move on. Okay.
So to get back to your question of pressure.
Yes,
gas
please.
pressure. Well, I would always encourage people to read the first and second laws of thermodynamics, and it tells you everything you need to know in there. That's what I would say. And I'm not being flippant about it. I'm just not going to look it up now and read it. But basically what it says is that you can't have gas pressure without a container, because if you didn't have the container, the gas would fill the available space. Done.
Correct.
That's pretty much it. That's the second law of thermodynamics. It talks about entropy and stuff like that, and that's what's meant with that.
That's the point. He says, well, those are wrong. Those dynamics are wrong. So if those are wrong, then something else could exist beyond what you know.
Well, that might very well be true.
Know that.
However,
true, maybe, but I don't know that.
Yeah, but it still throws out of the window every officialdom that we have, doesn't it?
Right, that we've been given, and that's the point.
Whichever way we look at it, fact of the matter is, the official story ain't true. That's it, really.
So why doesn't anybody, the normal people, have a problem with that? I think normal people should have a problem with that. I think they will have a problem with that if they can understand that. How can you not?
And that's where getting to people in the
understand that they
streets is
told you
important.
that? Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, that's why I
Why
keep
would
on
they
going.
tell you that? You know, and they're going to ask the same question, why? But ask yourself that, why? Why
Well,
would they do that to you?
That's the whole point of talking to people on the streets,
Mhm.
because you can then say to people, well, are you a bit annoyed about the fact that your kids are getting lied to? Because I would be.
Yeah.
Oh, why is that? And I mean, it happened to me. I've said this story before. I've told this story before. It was in Oslo, in Norway, and it was a quiet night. It'd gone dark. It turned very, very cold very quickly, and then all these parents were hanging around, and there were lots of police, and we were just setting down our banners, and I could see two women with their kids,
Yeah.
and I was just hanging around there, and I just went up to one of them. I don't know why I did it, but I did, and I said, "Oh, you know, what you guys stood around here for? What's going on?" And she explained it was the first Advent, and then that is their tradition to all walk to the town square and light the candles on the big Christmas tree. And I said, "Oh, that's cool." And then she asked me, "Oh, where are you from? You sound English." And I said, "Yeah, I'm English." "And where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Norway, but I lived in England for 20 years or whatever," she said. No idea, but I can't remember now, but words along those lines. And then I suddenly started talking to her about what we were doing there, and I said, "Well, you know, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and for me, it's important that my children don't get lied to at school. What can we do about it? Not should we do something about it? That wasn't my question.
What?
My question is, what can we do about it? You know, throwing the onus on her straight away, but in a nice way." And then she sort of clicked for me. Well, she waited and then clicked for a minute, and she went, "Oh, how do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, just think about this. If your children are being told that there is X, Y, Z, but they're not being told that there's also an option called ABC, then we have a problem, right?" And she was like, "Yeah, actually, you're right on that. How do you mean?" And then we started going into a little bit more, and I started talking to a little bit about, you know, what's in the history books, the officialdom and all that sort of stuff. And by the end of about, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes, I think it was, she was like, "Well, I'll have a leaflet and I'll take one with me as well for my friend and stuff." And her friend was stood there. They were flabbergasted. But it was a normal conversation. But it worked. And it worked so well. Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's not even, well, of course it matters about the kids, but you're talking to that person right then and there. What about them?
Right.
Don't you feel like you've been living in a bubble and you've been naive and you've been just you almost feel stupid in that moment?
The reason why I mentioned the kids as an entry point to the conversation was because grown-ups feel uncomfortable around this topic. So you have to find some sort of common ground to then break into the conversation. You know, but they weren't there for the Globe Light Tour thing. They didn't even know we were there. So for that, you know, on that instance, or in that instance, it was a different approach for me altogether. It was like cold calling almost, you know.
Right.
But I don't have to sell this product. This product sells itself.
Absolutely.
And that's what strengthens my back when I'm out there talking to people. I don't have to sell anything.
I feel like art sells itself, which is what they put on TV. That's the problem, though. It sells itself already, but the mindset in the media has completely programmed them. They're basically mind controlled and walking around repeating whatever they're told on media. So that is their perception. It stays that way. But yeah, I think it's going to take them seeing things, like I said, using your own senses and experiencing it for it to become reality. Because you can just pass on knowledge too, but unless somebody's going to take the courage, and not the courage, but even the initiative and the motivation to start researching, that really won't go any further. I know a lot of people it doesn't. It stays right there for, well, maybe years, maybe it goes further later. I don't know. But I mean, even in that moment, we're trying to make a movement here. At least a ripple effect happen soon. Not 10, 20 years down the road, because we don't know what the heck it's going to be like then. So we're trying to change something now. We got to stay a little bit positive about that a change can happen. Something's got to get here. It's got to be, we break their minds on the media. Something's got to go deeper than staying on here too, staying on just the media, talking to everybody like I'm doing now. I can't just stay on here. The message will just stay here, and they'll
I
make
think
sure it just stays right here.
I think something is giving. I think it's just a question of, and I said this a while back, that it only takes a small little nudge. I don't think it takes much, to be honest. I know for a fact, because I was there, that there is a lot of attentiveness and a lot of reception to this idea. When I say this idea, I don't mind this idea in terms of it's a concept. What I mean is the idea of shifting your own brain into thinking a little bit differently. Excuse me. There's not, I don't see an issue in terms of conversing with people on the streets and stuff like that at all.
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue is people and their willingness to do so. Go out there. I mean, I think that's the biggest issue. But when you're out on the streets, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of people willing to talk about it. Loads and loads.
And I do hope that's not just a reflection on the Europe side and UK side. I hope that's a reflection of the United States too, Canada as well, everywhere. I know here it is difficult, and depending on what state you live in, excuse me. So it matters.
I'd love to come over to the States, Stacy, and do something with you, and just get a few people together, and, you know what I mean, and just drive around and spend 3 weeks and just drive around the state. You don't have to do the states. Just do a state. That's a country.
Yeah.
Basically, there are plenty of places that you can set up and talk, and you find a town hall or whatever. And, there are lots of places. You make sure police department isn't upset that you're not stood on a public sidewalk or whatever, and they just do it.
Main thing, I'm not there for that kind of entertainment. It could be amazing, like everybody stops and wants to look at a car crash. I'm not that kind of person, but yes, it draws attention, so I get it. It's entertainment. But no, I don't want anybody getting in trouble, nobody getting hurt, and I don't want that type of exposure. It's not the right type. I've been through it with Monsanto when we did it. It's not the right type. I got away from that. You see, honestly, if I start seeing any type of media, let's go, bounce. They're not going to push the narrative that we want. So why would I be involved in that? I don't need to scream. I don't need to holler. I don't need a megaphone. Because a megaphone, I am screaming down somebody's throat or screaming in their face. I'm not here for that. They hear enough of that in their daily life. Or, the people that we talk about that are indoctrinated, these people are screaming at them the same information.
Everyone has their own personal megaphone, my darling. And
they do.
And everyone has their own ways of using such devices. That said, is there a possibility of doing a very short break and then wrapping it up after that, perhaps? Because I need to just attend to my curtains.
Not a problem. Then give us a second. I'll continue playing from that song where we left off, and we'll be back in just a moment. Let me do a screen share and get that going. It won't be going very long. How long do you need? Just a few minutes or so?
2 or 3 minutes would be great. Yeah.
Okay. All right, then. Then give it a moment. Or should I play that video yet again for a third time for 3 minutes and 33 seconds?
Play the video. Yeah, play the video.
The video
Yeah,
again.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
I just love the
get out of
pictures.
there. Let me
Okay.
pull it up then. And it's nice to see the pictures too, because you have to go more slowly to see them, because there's like what 59 pictures I think totally involved. So it's quite a bit. 1 second.
I didn't even realize how many photos I took. I took loads, man. I took so many photos.
That's not even all of them. It's nowhere
it's
near. And we haven't gone over those
That's not-
pictures
they're
at
not
all yet.
They're not even all the pictures from Spain. I have more.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. Okay. Well, on that note, I shall duck out and I will press mute right now.
So, okay. You ready? I'm going to mute myself too. We'll be back in just a moment, guys. Thank you. Hi, BB Truth. Thank you for joining too. Be back.
I hope the entourage knows.
From the top.
Yeah, from the top, please.
Go on, Lulu. Easy does it, everybody knows. Comfortable with what you got, thinking out about you just don't know. Silence, golden, is it just unspoken? Sense I'm feeling oh so true. I don't heed the signs, that's nothing new. Your cosmic opportunity. If you don't take a chance to come with me, look up what's around you. Get out of dodge. Look up what's around you. Get out of dodge. No time to lose, no time to get out of dodge. Look up what's around you. Get out of dodge. Rearview mirror, scared of what's behind you. Saving money for a rainy day. What you haven't got, you can't give away. Token gestures won't sit around for extras. Getting wiggle room, you're taking mile, getting paid to fill you might fake a smile. Your cosmic opportunity. If you don't take a chance to come with me, let's go walk around you. Get out of dodge. Look up, walk around you. Get out of dodge. No time to lose, no time to waste. Get out of dodge. Look up, walk around you. Get out of dodge. Your cosmic opportunity. If you don't take a chance, come with me. Look up at what's around you. Get out of dodge. Look up at what's around you. Get out of dodge. No time to lose, no time to waste. Get out of dodge. Look up at what's around you. Get out of dodge.
Fucking awesome. Well, I'm running out of ink for autographs.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. Yeah. There we go.
Yes, there we do go. And I love that every single time at the end.
Yeah, it's
so how many autographs did you sign, by the way, then?
None. as it happens.
None. Okay, none.
The only thing I had to sign was the bill to pay for the practice room for that evening. That was it.
Okay, that's the real facts there. Okay, transparency. But
There you
then
go.
again, maybe you signed a whole bunch of them in your mind. That's okay.
Who knows? I don't think I did a deal with the devil that night. No, I didn't get any
That's good.
7-digit figures on my account. So no,
You sure about that?
I'm not too sure. I'll have to check actually. If
Phoebe
that's the
Trick was saying
case,
it was a beautiful singing voice too. Who was that was singing?
sorry, who was that? Who was what?
Who was that was singing on the song? Who was singing that?
The song that we just heard?
Correct.
Yeah, that was well, the girl who's singing is a girl called Amy, and
Okay.
the band is called Powdered Marble. They're a little bit in limbo at the moment, but who knows? They might
You never
resume
know.
again shortly. Yes, yeah.
There's just a recording done from your phone practice that we were doing one day.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is
just
actually not too bad.
Yeah, it's just a practice room thing, you know. It's just like I used to just leave my phone on and just record whatever we were playing, and you'd hear squeaks here and me being out of time and stuff like that. Because you're just sort of trying, you know, you're trying to sort of get the basic structure of the song right, and then hopefully when you then perform, it's on point. And that's what you're
Someone
doing.
earlier was talking about the bass line and the other song, or the Dreamland one that we were talking about too, which is something that you always talk about is the bass line. That's the main thing you always hear from him, which is it's good. I always look for that bass line too. It was just a beautiful bass line.
The woman who plays in the band is called Lucy, and she's actually a trained classical guitarist, but she then flipped from guitar to bass. And I remember being asked a question once by someone in the practice room. There's like somebody pulled me to one side and said, "What do you think about the bass guitarist? How does she sort of rate?" And I said, "She's the best bassist I've ever played with, ever. She's so good.
Yeah.
She gets tones out of that thing. It's just unbelievable. And I kept on, you know, when I was sat behind the drums, sort of looking at her all the time, but I could never really see what she was doing because it's sleight of hand. You know what I mean? It's she wasn't making any obvious moves. You were just hearing the music, and she would just stand still as well. She wouldn't move. And I'm thinking, wow, if anyone plays like that, you got a boogie woogie, right? No. She'll just stand there and just play up and down, whatever.
Everybody does music differently and handles it differently. I see where I can't stand still, and others, they sit there and just sing away. Everybody handles their artistry differently. It's what's so beautiful about music. I love music. Listen to it daily. It's what makes me happy. We talk about that. When music's not around, it's almost like your mood's totally different for people that are into it, especially.
Yeah, totally. We often sat in practice rooms and sort of kind of almost wrote a song while we were sat there wondering what to do. It happened sometimes. It really did.
Didn't you write that song, by the way? Get Out of Dodge. Was that you?
I did. Yeah, I did write it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did, based on an experience I had. I nearly got mugged just down the road, actually.
Really?
Yeah, well, kind of. I was being sized up. I could see from the other side of the street that there were a couple of guys sizing me up. And I remember I just had this thought in my head, right, let's just get out of Dodge. And that was it. By the time I got home, I'd already written 2 verses and a chorus line.
Yeah.
And within 2 days, we were playing it. Yeah. It was that was an experience. Yeah. But anyway,
That's really how it's created the best music too. It's created that on a whim, like out of nowhere. A lot of people don't write it down or won't go get a recording instantly and do it. But if you do, we've actually talked about how many things that we've discussed and like, did you write that down? Nope. Like, oh, we had a book if we just would have wrote stuff down. Which brings me back to we all need to get back to writing with pen and paper. Writing, because it's so important because nobody's doing it anymore. So we're going to have nothing left of anybody finding anything at this point. It's all turning digital. So it's important to get your feelings out. I think sometimes so on paper, and you'd be surprised the effect that it'll take on your life, spiritually and physically, things that can do. And if you don't.
Just the fact of writing something on a piece of paper
Right.
is
So,
bizarrely very cathartic. You know,
yes.
that connection with actual communication to a piece of paper, a fixed medium, not something online, not something, you know, digital or anything of that nature. You know,
Right.
It's like writing a letter, isn't it? You know, if you write a letter to somebody, that's totally different to texting them. Now, I know people will say, well, obviously it's different. Well, yeah, obviously it's different, but yet everyone still prefers to text. So explain that one to me. I don't get that.
Simple, convenience, and right there to the point. I don't have to wait. And I don't, you know, before it was what? I had to write you a letter. And what if I want to tell you 10 things? You know, I need to tell you to pick this up the store, do this and do this and this. So it's about convenience of having something right then and there. But even my mom used to complain because my brother would call and go, I've called you how many times within a short 10 minutes? She goes, Sean, oh, excuse me, I shouldn't be saying names. Doesn't matter. I'm in the bathroom right now. I'm not going to take my phone everywhere with me. Now, a lot of us, and I'm not one that takes my phone to the bathroom in that manner all the time, but a lot of us will take the phone to the bathroom or wherever we go because we have to have it. It's an attachment. It is part of us. It is another you. And that's the problem, is that cell phones and media has taken over to that point. But we've let it. We actually we encourage it, and that is an issue. I mean, even us right now are encouraging platforms and technology to a point that we need it for truth. But is it running a daily aspect of my life every second? No,
no, but for a lot of people it is, though, and that's the problem.
I don't have cable. I don't watch TV. I don't know anything that's going on. I don't have radio.
I remember having this conversation a while back. I might have told you about it, Stacy, and that was with my niece, who's 18. Love her to bits, Lauren. Yeah, beautiful woman. I remember holding her in my arms when it was her christening back in 2001. That's another story. But anyway, why am I mentioning her now?
Oh, don't start on that now. Don't get me going. We're talking about. Oh, don't. You're gonna forget me forgetting now. See, this is what he does, and it's a pre-programming that I'm talking about. He does something to my head and puts it to a spell. Does anybody else remember what we're talking about? It was the whole room wiped at one time. Just a question. There's 8 people in here too.
Oh, there's still people there. That's good. That's nice.
But it could be counting down because your forgetfulness, people will start saying, okay, I forget that I'm in this room as well. I actually can't help you this one because I'm doing 3 things at once.
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
But no, see, I was in it with you, so I can't complain. And I know we are tired, but it has nothing to do with that. Like I said, there is something that explains it again tonight. The show perfectly explains what I was saying for the past 2 days to you. So I'm kind of glad it's happening on live stream.
Oh, right. I remember what I was going to say. I spoke to my niece and she asked me this question, right? No laughing, by the way. I'm just going to tell the story. She said to me, well, how did you guys communicate when you went to school, let's say when you wanted to meet up for parties or whatever?
Thank you.
And yeah. And I said to her, well, that's a good question. And I had to think myself, actually. And I said, hang on a minute. Well, what we did was we used phone boxes and we knew everyone's number. Now, I remember knowing about 15 or 20 telephone numbers from different friends of mine in my head. So that wasn't really the issue. But she couldn't get it through her skull, never mind into her brain. She couldn't fathom that out. So what did you do then? And I was like, well, we had that, and also when you went to school on a Thursday or a Friday, you were already discussing sort of weekend plans by that time anyway. So you all knew where you were going to meet up, at what time of day, at whose house, or whatever. That was already sorted. She didn't get it. And then
people communicating, friends communicating.
And I flipped the question round to her, and I said, well, that's nice that you're asking me that, Lauren, but here's a question for you. What do you talk about with your friends once you get off the phone and actually stand in front of them? And she looked at me and went, well, we just sort of talk about stuff. And I was like, well,
stuff.
Yeah, but you've already been talking about stuff. So what do you? And I was doing it on purpose. I was trying to antagonize her a little bit, bless her. But one thing that became very apparent very quickly was the fact that, and this is the point I'm trying to get to really, is the fact that the social media daily lifestyle kind of takes over people's itinerary, and that's what it's all about. And then when they actually meet in real life, they don't really talk about much. You know, it's very bizarre. It's the totally other way around as to how I would have it.
Exactly, but it didn't used to be that way. We know that. I mean, back in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't this way. Back in the 90s, it wasn't this way. I was still communicating and running around with my friends, hanging out. I know. We had pagers and stuff. It's when even when the phones came out, it still was okay. Everybody was communicating. It's when the apps and the iPhones and the ability to be right there, touch screen, I could just communicate, see your face over a screen too. I don't have to even go down to your house now. When that convenience came, just like the microwave came that everybody uses, no matter if it causes cancer, it will still happen because it's there. The only way it will ever go backwards is if it gets taken away. Literally. Why would they get rid of their convenience? Especially here in the United States, convenience is everything we've talked about, to the American people. A lot of the American people, the majority of them. That's their comfort. That's their blanket. So if the comfortability gets taken away, which is their convenience, what's going to happen to them? Then they become unhappy. That's what I talked about too. What makes someone happy is not the same for everybody. What I want and makes me comfortable is not the same that makes you comfortable. I can live with barely anything and be comfortable with that. And I mean comfortable, happy. And the same person next to me goes, that's not enough at all. I need this and this and this and this. I'm not sure they do, because I live very basic. But that's comfortable to them. And if they don't have that, then they're not happy. So it's more about convenience. And so how are you going to take away people's convenience? That's everything they've worked for, right? Because we went to the day and age where they didn't have anything. That's why everybody stocks up on everything. At least that's the story we get told, And I'm sure I've always seen a lot of my family talks about it. Not having stuff and the droughts and everything else that they went through. But they want to have convenience because they don't want to go through all the crap they went through years ago in our history. So they want to make sure they have it now. Water at hand. Of course, who doesn't want running water? When I was homeless and I didn't have running water, it was the one thing I couldn't wait to have again. I was most blessed to have back. But that doesn't have to happen. It doesn't exist for some people. But it's just how comfortable can people be and be okay and be happy with at basics?
I'm not too sure if it's comfortable or if it's just simple complacency. I'm not too sure what it is that's going down. I'm just trying to. While you were talking, I was just thinking back to when we first ever got our first video recorder. We never had a microwave. I never had a TV in my room. I never had a telly as a kid, ever.
Yeah.
The first bit of multimedia I ever got was a stereo system, and it was made by a company called Amstrad. And the bottom drawer came out and you could put your vinyl on top of it. You brushed it first, and you placed it on there, and you lifted the needle over. Beautiful, love it.
Very up to date.
Yeah, I loved it. It was my pride and joy.
I know.
I never had a TV. I never wanted a TV. I was only interested in music. That's all I listened to, really. Any other stuff that I would listen to, I would hear by watching telly. If I was sat in the living room talking with my mum and dad or whatever, and the news might be on or whatever, you know. And then you'd get these terrorist attacks. And when I say terrorist attacks, we're not talking Muslims here. We're talking naughty Irishmen. There we go.
Right.
The narrative was different back then. Certainly in Britain, but the same stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But everything was different for you. But here, where I grew up, no, it was everywhere. Microwave. In fact, I think there was even 2 microwaves at one point in my house, and I thought that was crazy. We never used both of them, by the way. But I mean, there was convenience after convenience, and of course, that's what you wanted to provide your child, especially. And they go to school, and they want to have their friends over, and I remember my friends always said, "You have a nice house," and that was important to people. They want to hear they have a nice home, so that's why they have these nicer places. But they really don't even want to take care of themselves. They care about having in the first place.
As the old saying goes, a house is not a home.
Right.
You could live in a multitude of places.
Right.
I don't think that really matters.
But
yeah, there we go.
But convenience is, I feel, the problem with the United States. Is I know it is in my mom's home. I know it is now in my other family members' home. I won't go into detail, but Alexa everywhere. And some need it because of disabilities. They can't walk, so they feel like they need to be able to have Alexa turn the lights on. I get it. But for people that can actually get up with their own 2 legs and walk to the light and turn it on, and still using that baffles me. And I see it all the time. And it's, why would you program your lights? I'm sorry. And then they get upset that you hit the light switch. I'm used to being normal and walking around and hitting a light switch. Pardon me for being, using my legs and actually being physical and not being digital with every single thing that I do. And I feel like that's what it's come to, is whatever makes it easy, so they don't have to move or do anything. That's fine with them. Is that for being overworked? Is that being just tired of the system? Is that
no?
I don't know.
I think it's a reliance on the system as well. I think it's I think it's people being lazy, and it's we've spoken about this before. The very people who are complaining about the system are the very people to blame for the system being what it is. Because if something was done about it, then we wouldn't be in this godforsaken quagmire that we're in at the moment.
That's right.
For
how long?
It's not. It's. Let's look at this really in a sober fashion. It's not freaking rocket science. It's really quite simple. It's simple stuff, right? We know there are certain things that we've been lied on or lied about, right? Now, knowing that means we have to do something about that. Now, whether we could change anything is a totally different issue, because we don't know that. I don't have a crystal ball. But what we can do is we can affect it in some way, shape, or form, because you have to chip away at the old block. Rome wasn't built in a day. All these beautiful cliches.
Yeah.
And once people get that into their minds and understand what this is about, it's not about changing the world overnight. It's not about any of that. It's about encouraging people to take a closer look at what we have observed ourselves and what we have come to realize. That's the point. And if you haven't come to realize anything, then there's no point in even trying to suggest to pass any sort of message on, because what's the point of that?
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I talked about going inwardly and ensuring that your connection with yourself, your inner self, is there. It's actually happening. It's present.
Yeah.
And if not, then review it, revisit it, work on it. Then
That's right.
get out there, all guns blazing. Absolutely.
Of course, that's
So,
technically speaking, you're not being serious about really actually using guns. So let's not take that seriously, people, either.
oh, I don't mean all guns blazing.
No.
That's of course not.
Most compassionate way possible. That's where, but
Yeah,
also with a fire.
metaphorically speaking, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The passion that some of us have, I don't feel like is stretching out enough. And I feel like, yeah, if we could push that same passion that we have on here out to the street more, yeah, something can be done. Definitely. Because a lot of us have it. And we can't be the only one.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And,
that's the main thing.
you know, I hear it in your voice, you hear it in my voice. You know, I ain't going to take any messing on this sort of stuff. It has to be done. It's not even, it's not up for discussion. It's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Simple. You know, and I used to work for a company, they were based in Hamburg, a British company. And I used to have a lot of files that ended up on my desk, and they were all titled non-negotiable. In other words, deals already done.
Right.
And it was for me to process them or make sure that, let's say, the dots and the commas were in the right places.
Yes.
And this is the thing. You know, this is the thing.
Well, the more and more that we keep doing this, and not just my channel, you know, your channel, and even the people in the chat room, and of course, all the other channels that I respect and look up to for everything that they've inspired me to do. This is about everybody working together. I'll bring it back to that before we actually leave the stream tonight, because it is late and it is UK time as well. So we'll pay respect to the UK time. But yeah, we need to at least be on the same team here and try to help one another. And if we don't know something, please say we don't know, and then let's try to help one another learn that, and let's move on. That's all I could say, because I don't want the message being said out to the other people, especially when you hit media, that we're fighting. There should be no fighting between truth. As long as all of us are out here trying to spread actual, real information and truth and trying our best, then let's not tear each other down, but to try to build each other up, help one another. I'm not going to tear down a channel. I'm not here for that. I just want to move forward and try our hardest to wake people up. I will also put the Discord link in one more time before we leave. And I never did, actually, I never did.
Not just try our hardest to wake people up, but also try our hardest to keep ourselves awake. I think that's an important point, and that's something that people shouldn't be losing sight of. You know,
yes,
I think that's a big ingredient. It's kind of hard to find at the moment.
Of course it is,
honest.
but
it's not for me to judge.
Yeah,
and it's that's other people's business. That's not my business. That's fine.
Okay.
Fine by me. But what I am really cool with is a bit of music. I wonder what there could be on the horizon. I don't know.
What would you like me to play on the way out? I could play some music on the way out when we are in the room still. Would you like me to play something for you?
Yeah,
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, you could maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Hit the rest of the music of the song we were talking about earlier, the blues one. Finish it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I
And then
will.
we'll come back for
Okay.
a few minutes, and then maybe, you know. Okay, after you.
And then end it? Is that what you like to do? Take another break, is what you're saying?
Yeah, have a
Okay,
little
or
break
we
and
could
then
not
come back
necessarily
and
break
then
with
wrap it
some
up.
music and
Something.
relax. That sounds good. We will definitely do that then. All right, I just
Alrighty.
posted the Serious Truth Discord server. That's where you'll find me as Sven and a couple other people in the community, and on Discord as well. As, you'll find them you might know. But we're over there trying to talk about what we could do to push the activism further. So if you would like to join, we'd love that. And you can find out more information about the tours, the upcoming one that's happening now, and the upcoming ones that are soon approaching. We don't know yet. We don't have the dates on those yet.
Not yet, not 100%.
But we will have those, and we will be posting that in our Discord as soon as we have it as well. But I will go ahead and take a sip.
We know that the Southwest tour is definitely starting on the 14th of March. That's what we do know.
Correct. And then the one in Bristol was put back a week to the 28th, I believe.
Yes.
And then
From
Bournemouth
the
will
21st
not
to the
change.
28th. Yeah.
Bournemouth will not change whatsoever. That is a solid day. And who is joining? Dave Marsh has already said that he is joining as well. We'll meet you out there. Is that correct?
Yeah, Dave Marsh is definitely in Bournemouth for the Bournemouth tour, and Brian from Copenhagen will be in Bournemouth as well. So there's three of us. Robin Campbell will be there. That's four of us, and I have at least another few.
Quite a few more people. Yeah, they're joining as well.
A few more due to join up. So it's going to be
should be a good time.
Be a good event. Yeah, it will be a good one, definitely. Spursky Mo hopefully will be there, and a few others. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Oh, sorry about that. I was getting that video ready. Not video, but the music ready in the background. Okay. I guess I'll go ahead and play that music for you, since that is something that you want me to do.
Video killed the radio star. Remember that song?
Of course I do. Everybody knows that song.
Ever on MTV? Here we go. All right, I'll do a mute.
No, that's that argument again, right? Is that what's happening? You definitely hit the mute button at the right time. All right, guys. Give me a second. I'll live share screen, and then we'll go do that.
That woke me up.
Sorry, I had to take a little break real quick and talk to my mom for 2 seconds as well. So I took a little longer than I actually wanted to. But then when I came back, it was getting to a certain groove. Like, well, I'm not going to end it right this second.
And your fader button didn't work properly. I know. I get it. That's okay.
My
That's all good.
oh, of course it didn't.
Of course not. Here we go. So
getting back over here to make sure. We still have 4 people in here. I'm surprised we have anybody left in here. It took so long at all.
I know.
But yeah. No, we will wrap it up here in a minute. We won't take too long. But yeah, did you want to talk to anything else about what we were saying about convenience or anything? You're good on that.
I think there's plenty to allow us to roll over to the next show, I would say. You know, I think there's a lot of food for thought in what we spoke about. And I think there's lots of things that we could explore more closely at a later date. You know, and
yeah. So you wanting to wrap up the show right now? Is that what you're saying? You're tired now? Or you're trying to say that just on that topic?
I'm not trying to say anything because I would never try and say anything because whatever I try and say,
what are you
always
saying?
comes out.
There you go. Take out the word try, because the man of his word.
He's on one again. No, just in general, you know what I mean. I think we have to just sort of be cool about stuff, basically.
Yeah.
We have to pay more attention to what we're doing rather than what other people are saying. I think that's the key. If I don't mind my saying.
Keep doing this no matter what's happening, no matter what's being said on the media, no matter what's being said in the community, or no matter what anybody says to me, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. There's no way I could stop.
Trusting yourself.
Yeah. The discernment we always talk about.
That's important. Yeah. It's very important. You know, people have lost that skill for some reason. Well, not for some reason. We know the reasons. But the dumbification of society is not only in progress. It's well underway, and it has been for a long time.
Is it underway? Do you think it's underway or already happened at that point?
Oh no, it's well underway. It's already it's been going on for a long time. Yeah, you know the dumbing down of society. It's been going on for ages. You know, in many ways, shapes, and form.
It makes me wonder, though.
Well, nowadays it's technology that's taken over, and the reliance on social media and all that sort of stuff, and then the subsequent behaviours at schools.
A lot more than that, but also than the food and everything too that dumbs you down. I'm sorry.
Not even that. Parents at home that don't feel they have the time for their kids, all that sort of stuff. There's so much thrown into the mix. Accessibility to bad stuff on the internet or whatever. There's so much. There are so many pitfalls, and people just have to be aware of them. And that's it, really.
I literally had my niece show me a video the other day. What was the other day now? It's been a couple of weeks, actually. But we're just sitting in the car and hearing Stacy, look at this. And she's throwing her phone in my face, I'm in the front, though. And it's a guy shooting himself or an accident, something. So a guy, basically kills himself on live stream. This is on Instagram. And I'm thinking, how are you seeing this? Why are you seeing this? And the fact that you've already seen this video before, you're me,
Yeah, my question would be, why would you want to see that? I find that a bit bizarre.
But it was the way that it didn't even affect this little girl. I mean, this girl's only 9 years old. It didn't affect her. I'm sitting here like I can't stand watching it. It's killing me. And it was only a very few seconds. But it's almost like it's I don't know if it's the Hollywood, the movies.
Yeah, but that little girl in that moment might not come over to you as having been affected, but I guarantee that will affect her. And it's yes, it will affect her. She's 9. Yeah, she'll remember that.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Especially when she understands and connects
It's not good. It's not
what
good.
it actually means, truly means. You know what I mean? I don't think they understand it anymore. That's not real to them unless it's when their loved one's dying. They see it on media, whether it's a real thing happening to somebody. They still see it as it's almost like a movie or a show. It's not real to them. They've been desensitized. They don't have it anymore. It could always become entertainment, humor for them, and that scares me. That's the children. That's the new generation that we have going on forward, and we got to bring that back because that's very important. I know the kids are not a topic that people like to discuss because it's very hard, but it's got to be talked about at some point. Or we're gonna never get out of the situation ever, and it's important because it's happening daily, especially in the United States. It's very disgusting what's happening to our kids, and we need to address it. It's not just the school system, education, it's just in their lives. It's beyond that. And what's happening to our kids at school too, and the parents need to be more aware of what's happening there too, and paying attention.
And you just used the right word, and it's awareness, and it boils down to the same thing all the time. And I think that is a very good signing off word.
Yes, it is.
Awareness.
I agree.
Okay.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining me tonight. And we had a lot of people stop in, and I can't show my appreciation enough for your support. Not only for me, but I'm also speaking, I guarantee, for Sven, but I'll let him speak for himself too. But I thank you again, and I hope you guys have an absolute wonderful night tonight. And you want to say anything, Sven, too?
I'm not too sure. Even if I could get my English working right.
It's getting late.
I'm not sure I can add anything to what you just said. Perfect words.
All right.
Thank you to everybody who made the effort to have a listen in. I hope we fulfilled any non-expectations.
There we go.
We're just here to have a conversation about things, and I think the conversation we have here, Stacy and I, reflects a lot of what people would like to talk about in general anyway. So great, and thank you for having me, and thank me for having you, and me for having you, and all that sort of stuff.
Vice versa, blah blah blah. And especially Bob for joining us, and all the kind words again you said. I appreciate it. Thank you again.
Yes,
and we will see you guys on another episode. Have a wonderful night.
Good night, everybody.